Here we are, the Possum Pit Podcast, ready for episode number 2. How you guys doing today?
Pretty good, man.
Are you sure?
No.
Well,
One of us is not happy.
one of us is not happy today.
And it's not Russ Ward.
I'm not, or me. Before I get too much into it, I want to say thanks to everybody who listened to the first episode, everybody who got in touch with us. People have hit me up from Croatia, of all places. I got an email from a guy saying he liked it a lot.
Wow.
He never problem. It sounds
That's a long way away.
He liked us. Terry Hudson. I don't know if you know Terry, right down the street, right around the corner. He told me he liked it. He was going on about the things that, we were talking
I
about.
had a guy last night going, man, you're killing it with everything, man, that podcast and everything. And Dave goes, yeah, you like podcasts? Well, I ain't listened to it yet.
That's the kind of fans we want.
But I appreciate everybody. We are working on a couple other things tirelessly. I've been researching different ways for you guys to hear this, and we're now on iTunes. It should be easy to find. I had some people say they successfully found it.
It works easily. It works good.
So we got it on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. So look on the Facebook page. We're easy to find on the Facebook page. I'm gonna have links for all these on the Facebook page, and subscribe. In some cases, review on iTunes. Review. Let us know what you think. We want to hear it, even if you don't like it. We need to hear this stuff. And that's about all I got. There's a couple things I wanted to go over. Last episode, we ran out of space. I'm not gonna lie, we ran out of space, and came and fixed it. I think it sounds pretty good. I ain't got that problem today. We've had a lot of technical issues. Last week I brought these guys in here for about hour and a half only to realize the damn thing didn't even record. So I had a bunch of angry guys looking at me wanting to fight me when we were through. Made some purchases, did a little bit more research. I think we're good to go. So these things should be popping out about every 2 weeks. Just stick with us. Be patient. I probably picked the wrong time of the year to do this, to be honest with you. Christmas, holidays,
We'll get them
nuptials.
We'll get them in.
At the right time of the year, all the bugs will be worked out.
Yeah, I think so too. With the really good stuff. But anyway, going around to my left, I got my good bud of almost 30 years, Steve Winslow. How you doing, bud?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Glad to be here.
What'd you do last night after we went to the memorial?
A 42-year-old's Friday night,
I hear you.
snoring by 8:30. So that's pretty much it.
I went and had.
Then I got up and went to bed.
I went and had one of the best. I went and had one of the best burgers that you can have.
At Whataburger.
In all the world. We have the best burger.
What'd you get on that
in
burger?
Cabarrus
Jed?
County?
What was on that burger?
Chili, lettuce. No, it wasn't lettuce. Dusty got lettuce. Chili, onions, ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, and bacon.
And tire rubber from the side of the road.
Did you get a cherry lemon sunrise?
Of course.
Okay.
I'm a Cabarrus County native.
Just asking.
All right. Across from me, how you doing there, Russ Ward?
All right. Feeling really worldly next to you guys.
Well, you're the guy that's been all across the sea, and
Yeah, but I also know where the real Whataburger is.
There's one right there.
No, there ain't no Whataburger. Whataburger wants to be.
What, the Whataburger right here?
There's
yeah.
one right across the street over here.
Across the street. There's
Not
one on the
like-
same
not
side
the
of the
real
street.
ones we went to in Texas.
Yeah, not a real.
No, I'm talking.
Yeah.
No, it's right here. It's right here. It's right here.
That's one. It's on the same side
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
Barry's house.
Yeah, it's good as hell.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
know-
that's good.
Yeah, thank you.
It's all right. It's all
No,
right.
it's
But-
not
and-
good at all.
You don't think that's good?
It's Southern cuisine.
No, it's called like. It shows how fragile the human brain was. That you thought that was good when you were a kid, and now
Listen,
you
man.
You don't
When
even
I was
realize
a
it's
kid, there was two
complete
things that got
shit.
me excited. When Mom said, "Eat some, Mom," or "Whataburger." Both of them, dude, was like, "Yes."
Barry, I gotta tell you, if we weren't here on your property using your stuff and your electricity in your room, You'd be out of here.
That's right. Tea party. We didn't have a damn tea party.
He's the producer.
Um,
So yeah, I feel worldly today next to you guys.
Okay, it should be noted, and I mentioned this last week. I don't know if you heard it. My buddy Russ does a pretty popular blog that can be accessed at queencitystomp.blogspot.com. Hit him up, read it. Just add him on Facebook. He talks about it all the time. So, you know,
Nobody read the last one. I was heartbroken.
what'd you write about?
What did I write about in the last
Fall.
one? I just like capsule of
Hey,
last
no.
few shows we did.
Hey, ain't nobody read it.
Because I got a thing that shows me what the read counts are.
Oh, I read it.
So
Yeah, you just insulted him.
yeah. No, it's all good.
To my right, going in clockwise, a guy I've known for years, have a tremendous amount of respect for, and he keeps moving along. My good buddy Jeff Clayton, how you doing?
Been better.
Well,
I'm grumpy today.
well, let me blow your ego up just a little bit. I didn't mention
Probably ain't
this.
gonna help.
I didn't mention this the last episode. It should be said that 3 of the 5 guys in this room make up the majority of the punk rock band Anti-Scene. And I'm assuming that most people, a good chunk of the people who listen to this, know exactly who Anti-Scene is.
Yeah.
So, you might hear about Anti-Scene quite a bit, and you should, because they're the
Not many
longest running, best punk rock band in this area. Have been for going on over 3 decades.
I would go so far as to say the world, but yeah, I'll go ahead and hang with this area.
You're making me nervous, man.
But thank you, Jeff.
And they have a new record out, Anti-Scene. We're number 1, probably the best record they've done in, I would say, in my opinion, since Groove. The best record they've done, and probably the most, what's the word? You really put a lot into it.
Yeah, we kind of went over the top with the whole packaging.
The packaging, the vinyl, and I kind of like the fact that it's only just 4 songs, and all this whole big production was made over 4 songs. Plus, tell us about the Southern Hostility demo.
Oh, okay. Back when this had to have been the early '90s when we still had Doug Throgmorton as drummer. We had gotten on a really productive streak of songwriting, but we figured, okay, let's try doing the whole demo thing where we kind of study what we've done and see how we couldn't do it better, down the road a little bit. But when we decided to name the album Southern Hostility, a couple of the songs kind of didn't fit with that title and that motif we wanted to have. So we re-recorded a couple of covers and maybe a song or two else. We did those for singles. And Doug went on a leave, which was for an undetermined amount of time, so we got a new drummer in, which was Steve Sadler, and we basically just used the cassette version of those songs for him to learn what we had gotten so far. And maybe a handful of people have heard it, ever. And I put it away, it's been in a box for decades and decades. Surprised the damn thing even worked anymore, to be honest with you. And when I got it out, probably about 5 years ago, I tried to play it. It played fine. And I listened to it, and I don't think it, matches the actual Southern Hostility release sonically, but it's a whole different take on it, with Throgmorton playing, with it being recorded a lot cleaner, and we weren't really intending for it to be released, because when we did it, I had a shredded voice and all, but I think our fans, especially the diehards, are going to be real excited to hear it. And And the packaging on that is going to be a pretty good thing too. It's going to come with a poster and everything from back then.
Well, I think with what you with your involvement with TKO and the expansion they've done, TKO Records, the packagings for records with them are probably all going to be pretty top notch.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead and break this news on the podcast right now before I even break it out on antiscene.com or the Anti-Scene Facebook page. Yesterday, I mailed off the original mixed down 2-track tape of the entire Drastic session.
Oh, really?
To Cascade Printing. So there were 14 songs done when we did Drastic. Only one of those, other than the tracks that appeared on Drastic, have never seen the light of day. I can't even remember what some of them sound like. It might be terrible, but it's a time capsule piece. It's not, intended to be the new Anti-Scene release.
So that was, you're saying there are songs that we've never heard, or just versions of songs?
And some of the music people did end up hearing on the Gigi and Anti-Scene Murder Junkies record. We just took old songs that we didn't play anymore, and Gigi put his new lyrics to the old music. Matter of fact, when I found the tape the other day, the tape was recorded November 3rd, 1984.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So right at, yeah.
Right, yeah.
That's cool.
So it was kind of weird. I think I found it on the 5th or something like that.
Well, I was thinking about it before, I was kind of making a mental note of things I wanted to touch on that I didn't, and bringing Anti-Scene out in this was important. And I was like, well, I want to talk about the word number one, because I had it on the list from before we ever did the first podcast. And I was like, I'm going to bring up that because honestly, I didn't even know we were doing that. You told me about Drastic, but I didn't even know you were doing Southern Hostility demos, which is pretty cool. I'm interested to hear the difference in sound, because Southern Hostility to me can be kind of hard to listen to.
It's noisy.
It's real.
But that's what a lot of people like about it. The fact that it is so abrasive.
Well, it's not so hard to listen to that I don't like it. I do. I love it. I mean, my favorite song, some of my favorite songs are on there. Hateful Power, Evil Rock and Roll. But it is, it's a little tingy in the ears. Mm-hmm. And I'm interested to hear what this sounds like. Plus, you nerd out on stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's going to be pretty cool.
Plus, it's fucking Throgmorton playing drums.
Well, that's another thing. Not to disparage anybody that was ever in your band, but he had a odd style for a punk rock band.
Yeah.
But I like it. Like his version of Kill the Business. Like that drumming on that was insane good.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Wrapping it up with my intros. The guy behind me, and probably I would not have been able to do this because not only is he hosting our space, but he has kind of worked through some of these technical issues with me. My good friend and producer, Barry Hannibal. How you doing, Barry?
All right.
I'm glad we are got all these bugs worked out.
Yeah,
it was starting to eat a hole in me. Anyway, usually the way I want to do this is have 2 or 3 things to talk about, but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has released their list of nominees this year, which they always do about this time of year. And right around my birthday, they'll put out the list of the people they pick. I'm pretty sure I can pick about 3 of them off this list that I know we're going to get on. But before we get into it, I'm going to just read off who is actually on this list with try to keep as much emotion out of it as possible. Going in alphabetical order: Bad Brains, Chaka Khan, Chick, Depeche Mode, the Electric Light Orchestra, the Jay Giles Band, Jane's Addiction, Janet Jackson, Joan Baez, Joe Tex, Journey, a lot of J's, Kraftwerk, the MC5, Pearl Jam, Steppenwolf, the Cars, the Zombies, Tupac Shakur, and Yes. Well, I'll just ask. Okay, I'll say this. I don't know how everybody officially feels about it, but for the most part, people that love rock and roll as much as we all do, naysay the Hall of Fame. We don't think it's important. Who gives two shits? But then we get mad when our favorite bands are ignored, and we're happy whenever they get inducted. But Russ, does it matter?
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I mean, it's Jan Winter's. It's the Rolling Stone Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, It's Jan Winter's private club.
It is.
And, you look at it and you realize, you look at a list like that, and what they're doing is they're trying to advance some idea of the cultural significance of rock and roll music, so they have that in that they push. But they also have to concede to the commercial end of it, and commercial success is too often equated with cultural success. Does it make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, I explain it to people about, I always use the Sex Pistols. I'm like, 1978, Sex Pistols released their first and only record. And even if you don't know the music, you at least know the name. You know Johnny Rotten, you know Sid Vicious, you know the Sex Pistols. Then I turn around and go, but do you know who Jerry Rafferty was? And most people say, no, don't know who he is. And he sold 5 million copies of one single that year. A song called Baker Street.
Yeah.
Who had the impact? The long-term impact. You measure that after, you can't measure it in short-term commercial success. You measure it in long-term impact, that you see an influence that extends beyond just the time that it existed in. You get like a group like Journey on there. Journey might still have a commercial success that is extended to today as far as its presence on, AOR radio, classic rock radio. But do you hear an influence of Journey on, well, maybe you do on Train, I don't know, but that's another thing. I don't know.
Okay, before we start nitpicking it, let me ask you. You make a good point, but are they doing that now because they're righting the wrong, or I should say righting the right? Like I see two things here. For one thing, you have a band like Journey. Journey would not have been on this list 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So part of me says they're running out of They're running out of cool kids to induct. Then you have a band like the MC5, which a lot of people will argue should have been on 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So are they righting the wrong, or are they just running out of names?
I think they're running out of names because, man, look here. Shaka Khan, Chic. I love Chic. I love Joe Tex, Janet Jackson, Tupac Shakur. Please play me one track of their rock and roll catalog. They're not rock and roll. And I think it's stupid to even call it the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you're inducting Tupac Shakur. Now, if they had a rap and hip hop Hall of Fame, would the Clash be inducted to that? No.
Well, I think you're talking about rock and roll gets.
Rock and roll is a very encompassing.
It means different things to different people.
But why is rock and roll the only music that's treated that way?
You're right.
Why was Bob Marley inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Would Bob Marley have told you himself, "Oh, I play rock and roll"?
I think Hank Williams Sr.'s in.
Yeah, Hank Williams Sr. I love all these artists I'm mentioning right now.
I'm kind of hypocritical at that point, and I agree with you. But I'm kind of hypocritical because I grew up on Run DMC, but it was just my age. And seeing Daryl McDaniel's shoes in there, to me, was as cool as seeing Cliff Burton's bass or Alice's shoes, and they're not rock and roll. So I'm split on that one, man. And I don't know anything about Tupac, so I can't even argue that. But I'm kind of split. I'm kind of split on rap being in there because, man, it was very influential, like on my age group.
From a cultural...
Pushing me to go, well, damn, they're hanging out with Metallica. They're hanging out with certain bands, so I found them because of them. Do I think they belong in there? Probably not. But it was cool to see parts and pieces of them in there. I mean, that's a weird answer, I guess, but I can't fight either side of it. Run DMC in itself was more. There was a lot of rock and roll in the music, but hip hop in itself shouldn't be in there. I don't think.
But I mean, okay, why don't they just call it the Music Hall of Fame?
Yeah. Well, I look at it like,
Or the pop music.
well, like what I said. I look at it more as a museum, and I was happy to see certain things in there. And I would walk past Pearl Jam's or whoever's exhibit, like, and go right to what I wanted to see. I look at it more as a museum than I do a cultural thing. And maybe it used to be, but I think in the world we live in now, man, I don't think anybody really cares. He's trying to make his money and do a show on VH1 or whatever it's on now and move on with it to next year. I mean,
Well, that's what
I'll
I'm
still
saying.
go
They
if I'm in
gotta
Cleveland.
concede to a certain commercial demand
Yeah.
because when they otherwise, who's gonna want to even have an interest in it? If it was all obscure bands, there'd be a lot. There would be an audience for that. But I mean,
but it shouldn't.
there's now they do a audience vote. They
like one vote.
Well, that was-
no, you can vote as often as you want.
That's what
but,
was weird because I went to vote the other day and I'm like, it said you can vote 5 times,
Oh well,
and I'm like, that in
what they're-
itself doesn't even make sense.
no. What they're saying is you can choose. I think 5.
No, you could vote. Are you sure?
I
Maybe I
don't
looked
know.
at it
I don't
wrong.
know, but anyway, the point is that you can see the results as they are currently running, and you realize that Journey's, of course, at the top is like off the chart.
What do you think about bands that get
And
accepted?
down at the bottom is MC5.
Well, what do you think
But
about bands that
we
get
know
accepted? and
because
don't-
we're like music nerds that we can see and understand and readily recognize the influence the MC5 has had that the average radio rock listener is not going to understand.
But a mom with 3 kids is going to walk right past that.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's and they know that goes again the commercial appeal. They got to have the only reason why Kiss ever got in was because there was such there's like that duality to it. So they're looking at the stuff that they know is important versus the stuff that's financially important.
Right. Well, how do you feel about a band that doesn't accept it, like the Sex Pistols or some other
That's
bands?
fine. I don't think that because the whole idea is kind of absurd when you think about it to begin with.
I mean, rock and roll's counterculture.
Rock and roll is counterculture, and here you're setting it up as establishment, and now you're doing the exact opposite of everything that rock and roll was rebelling against as an idea, attitudinally at a
Nobody
point.
else will have the balls to turn it down.
Yeah, probably not.
They call us tomorrow and tell us we're in. We're like,
Well, you know what? We love to trash them,
But
Axl Rose didn't show up. He was like, fuck yo, I'm not gonna be there.
There's people that don't show up. The thing is I mean, it's like you said though. It's like when groups that you like get that recognition, especially these obscure groups that never got their just due in their time, and now they're the MC5, the Ramones when they got in, the Stooges when they got in. I mean, it's ironic that like when Madonna got inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, of all people, Madonna goes back to what you said. Jesus Christ. But who did Madonna choose to get to play her music? She didn't perform. Guess who performed her music when she got inducted?
Iggy Pop.
In the Stooges. And when you've got someone like Madonna who's using her position to kind of chastise the Rolling Stone, Jan Winter electorate, whatever you call it, she's wagging her finger going, no, these guys belong in. So much so that she got them to play her songs.
Yeah.
That performance was actually better than the performance they gave when they were inducted.
Theirs wasn't too bad, and we're going to get to the performance part of it. With me personally, I'm kind of like Steve in a sense that it's one of those things where it's like I don't know how to define rock and roll, because one end of me is rock and roll guitar, bass, and drums, or is it attitude and counterculture? Because by that, a Tupac Shakur and an NWA, absolutely. I mean, whether you like it or not,
Right.
absolutely are rock and roll.
And that's how they qualify it.
If is it commercial success, then by that, Journey should have been in
in the 70s.
10 they should have been 10 years ago. The Cars. I'm a big Cars fan. Make no bones about it. I own every one of their records, and
I'm surprised they're not in there.
But I don't think they deserve to be. They didn't do anything. They're just a really good band.
Well, they were the MTV generation.
I mean, they're Cheap Trick. I'm not going to sit there and say that Cheap Trick is a terrible band. I know y'all are all big fans, but I mean, what do they do besides just make some great records and have some big singles. They didn't change anything.
Well, I mean, if it was only the groups that had an impact as far as influence and change, it'd be a very short list.
It would be, and that's.
I mean, because like you can argue that the Sex Pistols, maybe Sex Pistols / Ramones / Clash, the big three, were the only ones from that genre like that had the impact, and everything else that came was due to their influence. You can argue that all day long, but I don't know, man. The whole process of these. I mean, I'm not even sure who the board is that picks all this out. I don't know that much about it, honestly, but sometimes I just wonder, like, what the hell are they thinking when they do suggest this artist but leave out others? I mean, there's still a ton of people from the 60s and 70s that probably should be in here. I mean, but to me, it's not important. I'm not going to think a group is less valid or less influential to me or less important because they're not hit with that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stamp.
Well, that goes back to my first question. Does it even matter?
To me, it doesn't.
No, same here. It doesn't matter to me.
It's just kind of a fun thing, a little competition thing. Of course, I'm happy to see the MC5 finally get in. I mean, what, it took this long?
They're not in yet.
Well,
They're
that's
just
Oh yeah, not in, but to be
But it's the first time nominated.
nominated.
Yeah.
To be
Well,
nominated.
that's what
Sorry.
I'm saying. It goes back to
See, I don't even keep up with who won the
nomination.
damn thing yet or not.
But see, that's the idea. Is just that, like I said, it's the recognition, especially for stuff that we sit there and champion, and people look at you sideways because they've never heard of it, and now it kind of gives some sort of validation in kind of a mainstream thought that otherwise might not have existed.
Well, I think some people.
It distorts the whole thing, really.
I think some people like us are just excited whenever we can actually. When you're listening to the newscast and they release it and you see the word on the screen, or you actually hear one of those idiots on the news actually say MC5. I mean, it's exciting to a point, but I never thought it would happen.
But questioning their whole way of doing something. Now this is going to get a little controversial here, but I think it's all a PC thing too, man. It's all a PC thing because, all right, tell me this. The wave of hardcore that started here in the U.S., you're going to tell me the Bad Brains need to be in there before Black Flag?
You make a good point.
Black Flag are the ones who got into a van and played every shit creek town in the United States and spread that music all over the place. I mean, I'm sure, the DC guys were real influenced by the Bad Brains, but Black Flag was going before Henry joined them. And they were doing that, hitting the road, hitting it hard, playing in towns that, probably until they played them, we never even heard of.
The irony is that this Bad Brains thing, you talk about the PC thing, that's exactly what's going to keep them from getting in.
They do too much digging.
Yeah.
I mean,
they don't even have to do too much digging. They just have to do a little bit of digging for something they said 30 years ago, and then that's going to be nope.
But it's cool though. I was shocked to see the Bad Brains name on there, and that was kind of cool to me because that was the first acknowledgement of hardcore, and I think that's going to hopefully open the door to more acknowledgement somewhere down the road, even if it's limited. Black Flag has got to be eventually, it's got to bubble up and be, like I said, at least nominated. I mean, it may not ever get in, but again, that goes back. It's almost now like the nomination's enough of a recognition. It needs some sort of mainstream recognition to understand that it had an impact, and what was disregarded and if not outright squashed by the quote unquote industry is now getting some sort of mainstream recognition.
But you're talking about
the industry's turned around and recognized it, going, okay,
well, also
right.
The industry is also now guys our age maybe,
true,
and that they grew up on these bands. But you bring up Bad Brains, and along with Black Flag, I would also say the Dead Kennedys, just as much. And it kind of strikes me a little odd that they're not, because they were a little more artsy, and they were definitely Jello was a lightning rod in and of himself, and he loved controversy. He had PMRC interaction.
Troubles, yeah.
Well, yeah, and he took on not just the PMRC. Well, I guess he also got in trouble with the law when he had that.
That piece of art that was
art
in,
was in the Frankenchrist.
Frankenchrist, that's what I was thinking.
And and he took it on. He fought it and won.
But he was on Oprah. He's done these things. So I'm kind of surprised that he actually that they're not listed. Like Bad Brains, I would think would be maybe third or fourth in that category.
Yeah, I was surprised. That they
but
came
Black
up
Flag
ahead
should
of
be
the Black Flag or Dead Kennedys. I would think those would have came up first.
Black Flag should have been.
I look at it like a museum. I mean, I just.
Well, understand there's the difference between the museum that they have and then their Hall of Fame.
I do,
because anybody can have stuff in the museum.
And I get that, but I'm just saying, I'm not probably going to go to the actual induction, but I can go to the museum and pay $25 to get in. But I can see some cool stuff, and I'm good with it. I mean, Pearl Jam, are they on there?
Yeah,
a couple other bands. I mean, it's kind of like you were talking about last week. I don't know anything about them, can't really stand them one way or the other for whatever reason, but, they might have had the influence on somebody that Kiss did to me. So I can't, it's hard for me to even differentiate who should be in there and who shouldn't be, because I'm stuck on my bands from the mid-'70s to the mid-'80s, and I haven't stopped. So who am I to say that somebody who was born in 95, it's not their fault that they like Pearl Jam?
No.
I mean, do they belong in there? I don't know. I mean,
the Hall of Fame, they're pretty goddamn famous.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I just don't have any ties to it other than
I understand that. I understand Jane's Addiction. I don't like that.
Yeah.
And that's not my kind of thing I listen to. I understand Kraftwerk. I mean, I understand it. But I don't know. I just think using the term rock and roll as this broad umbrella, but no other music can do that.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I don't know. Country might can now that they've included.
That's a whole nother discussion.
Beyonce.
Well,
but then what?
Watching the country music stuff the other night, it was just on. I don't have cable, so I only have a certain amount of channels I can watch. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, man, this is not country. But the people that like country, they think that's country.
Well, I think
so. It's a whole weird. It's a whole weird dynamic, because I'm like, that's not country, guys. That's country. I'm like, no, it's not. I
think the thing with rock and roll though is that it drew from so many influences to begin with, and you can steer it in certain directions and still could maintain it. And so therefore, any of the influences that came from outside of it, as far as a guitar, bass, drum, 4/4 beat thing, you can I can kind of see the validation when you start going, but it's sort of rock and roll, sort of a bastardization of a lot of different ideas. And think some of the best groups that look at the Clash, for instance, who could kind of lean almost in a early on the punk rock, almost, I wouldn't say hardcore, but they obviously informed that, which came later, but they also were influenced heavily by reggae and world music and whatever else that they threw in. But at the end of the day, the Clash were still what? Rock and roll band.
Yeah.
And that's why you can kind of go, okay, you can pull in some of these outside ideas. I think it gets a little excessive. I get more sideways with Madonna being recognized as a rock anything than I do Tupac Shakur or Run DMC. But I understand, people going with it's rap, it's hip hop, it's whatever, But attitudinally, I think the idea of hip hop and rap, whether I like it or not, relates a lot more to rock and roll than this, the Princess of Pop kind of crap. Michael Jackson or Madonna
or Yes.
Or I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know, but I'm saying more like just like Madonna or ABBA ABBA, and even they were questioning. They were like, "We're not a rock and roll band." I mean, they expressly stated that. They're like, "Why are we getting in?" I mean, they went and did it, whatever. So, but you know, and that's because that's where the lines get blurred, and you can make an argument for that stuff, but it's less so when something that's more hardline like country music, which of course has taken, many years longer to evolve into what it's become now, not for better, I would think.
Will Tupac Shakur hologram be there if he?
Yeah, probably. Who knows? So.
Well, I tell you, and we've kind of hit on some of them. I'm surprised Joan Baez wasn't already in there. That's a little shocking to me. I thought she would have been in there the first year.
I would have thought she'd been there back years ago.
Well, she predates Dylan. She does.
Yeah.
But I don't think she had the impact of a Dylan. I don't know that she had really the impact of, Peter, Paul, and Mary, which is kind of a awful thing to say. I don't know that Peter, Paul, and Mary are even in.
No, I'm not a big Joan Baez fan either, man. I mean, she was a political shit stirrer, just like Dylan was. But she probably should have been in, but way before now, as should have the Zombies, in my opinion.
Okay, well, Steppenwolf.
And Steppenwolf should have been in a long time. But see, here's where I start to get fucking agitated about all this shit. Because I start thinking of my favorites and why they're getting the cold shoulder. Why did it take so long for Kiss to get in? Only the most influential rock band of the 70s, more than likely, that still has impact today with the live show. I mean, Alice had a big one, but let's face it, Kiss took it to times four, and everyone has been comparing themselves to that ever since.
I agree. And they should have been the first year they were eligible.
Yeah, but they got the cold shoulder for years because it was a power play, and like Steppenwolf is just now getting considered. Grand Funk has never been considered, have they?
No,
that's amazing.
They've not.
And other than Stairway to Heaven, what's the one riff that our whole generation learned how to play on guitar? Smoke on the Water.
Smoke on the Water.
And Deep Purple just got in last year?
Just last year.
Oh, damn,
Yeah,
and man, I got to tell you this. Just an example. Like, I had a great time. Me and my soon wife-to-be went to the theater last night and saw Gimme Danger. Mad Brother Ward went to the show before us. Now, you know how many people was in the theater with Mad Brother Ward? 2.
Yeah, I read about
Russ Ward and Mad Brother Ward. That were the only 2 people in the theater. You know how many people were there at the 7 o'clock show? 8. And
that's odd. You would think.
I'm sitting there watching this, going, like, I get goosebumps watching it, and it's just like, man, I had that feeling like, God, I wish we could play, now after seeing it. And then, you get out, and walk around, your back hurting, your feet hurting, and looking around, 8 people kind of mulling down the stairs. And you're just like, when I envisioned this, I was like, oh, we got to get there early because, man, there's going to be a lot of people. I need to get my seat. I put my feet up on the bar. I could have showed up 10 minutes after the damn thing started and still got my damn seat.
Yeah.
And that just kind of irritates me. But
was that a one night only thing or
no? It's playing for the rest of the week. But a few other people on Facebook commented that at their town it was the same thing except for Lance. You see what Lance wrote?
He wrote it. He went and saw it in Detroit though.
Yeah, he saw it in the actual city of Detroit. Said there was an auditorium that held like 1,500, 1,100, something like that, and it was almost packed.
Wow.
Well, I'll tell you, I want to see it. Last night I considered going. It was actually going to be a 1-2. I was wanting to see that, and Dave Wincoop played last night, and I wanted to go see that.
Oh,
man. I had to go to. Steve and I both went to school with a girl whose father passed away, so that put that out of the running. However, kind of maybe giving you a little foresight into why that is the way it is. My immediate thought: it's going to be on Netflix in 2 months anyway, so I'll just sit at home and watch it for free. Yeah, I think Netflix does that.
And that's a very rational way to think about it. I don't know if I've ever been accused of thinking of things rationally at first, but
Well,
I think impulse. I'm like Stooges movie, yeah, opening night, yeah.
That's where the fanboy
well,
thing
it's
is.
no
I think
diff-
it's also a matter of how big you are into the subject.
but it's no different than that Ramones. I mean, and the Ramones are way bigger than the Stooges are by name, just name alone.
T-shirts only.
And when they put out that movie, Into the Century, which is really good documentary, we all loaded up, 4 of us, me, you, Griscom.
That wasn't even really a theater. Remember
That was just a special showing, man.
But
It was like a
Some kind of
video
art house.
projection.
But I'm thinking like they're only showing it like this day in
Yeah.
Columbia in a college town, dude. We stopped at Wendy's. I remember stopping at Wendy's and thinking like, man, we're not going to be able to get in. And it's us.
There was like 9 rows of chairs.
9 rows of chairs and about
How many people were there?
maybe
Us.
15.
And it's like this is the band that's like finally getting their day after they've all died and broke up. And I'm thinking it's just going to be huge, but no one was even there.
But that's a whole nother discussion. I mean, that's just the world we live in. I mean, it'd be like
Yeah,
that with
it
anything.
is. I mean-
That's the world we live in, man.
Look, I realized today that it was silly to even be emotional about that at all. But that's just how it was about it last night. I was just
You're
like,
talking about being upset.
yeah, just being ticked off that there wasn't more of a showing for But
But doesn't that really feed the idea that we get excited when we see these names pop up on a list like this? That kind of
Well, I
goes
guess
back and shows that we're getting some sort of recognition that kind of validates our position that we recognize these bands as being important and great or whatever.
As a business person, though, I'm looking at it like, why would they show that in a theater? I mean, why wouldn't you show that in clubs? I mean, that's just me. I mean, somebody had to pay for that, and that's got to be a loss somewhere. I mean, why wouldn't you show that in a club? With some kind of record store type day thing, and just get people there, promote it.
I think showing it in the movie theater, a documentary like that, is more of it's just a token. I don't think they think they're going to make any money.
Right, but I'm saying, why if you made that movie, why wouldn't you get that into clubs with some kind of freebie or some kind of thing to? I mean, I just think it would be more. Is it just not go that direction?
Well, that goes back to what I was saying though. I think people are Netflix now. People are watching that stuff at home. There was a showing for the Twisted Sister movie, which wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. But that's beside the point. They were making a fucking movie about Twisted Sister.
That movie showed in the theater.
There was a showing for it.
Oh.
But I mean, like they'll do a
those
showing.
one night deals, that one night only deals that they do. What's unusual about this is that it's actually a release.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was interested in going to a theater. See, I mean, that's one of my bands. That's one of the bands that formed me. And it's like, I didn't break my neck to go to the movie theater because I knew that I'd see it on Netflix.
They're not on that list.
Oh, they'll never be on that list. Well, I don't know. They keep,
They should be on that list.
Once they get,
They should be on that list, man.
I don't know.
I'm as much as of a fan as I am, and the cultural impact of that band, the cultural impact of that band for like the mid '80s is a footnote, but I don't think they changed anything. I love Twisted Sister, but I don't. By my standards, they wouldn't be on that list.
But that Hall of Fame's not about people that changed anything.
But see, that's
Journey didn't change.
that's
the whole thing,
the whole thing is it's the difference between the commercial and the cultural.
But I mean,
and it's like going back to Kiss. I don't think Kiss's impact was so much in a musical way, and that's kind of the difference between what's an influence and what's an inspiration. I think there are a few guys that I could name that would be more inspirational, not necessarily influential, but inspirational. Made kids want to go pick up a guitar than Ace Frehley. They may have gotten the inspiration as how they played elsewhere, but the desire and the want came from probably looking at pictures of him.
But that's what I always thought was weird about Kiss. Is everybody said the music sucked, but if you listen to the music, if the music sucked, the kids wouldn't have wanted to play that.
Well, that's
So
that's
obviously
my
the
argument.
music
That's
was
a
good.
whole nother thing, man. I have argued that with people all day long. I'm like, everyone's like, well, if they didn't have the show and the image, and I'm like, that stuff, Kiss were popular before there was videos, before there was, any way to see it. The only way you could see it is if you went to go see it.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids my age and that generation, my parents weren't going to let me go.
Yeah.
So I grew up with just the idea of it in my head. And what carried it, I realized much later, wasn't the image. It was the music. Because if the music been shit, we wouldn't have cared.
That's my point with it.
Those first 6 Kiss records are hard to beat, man. They're great fucking records. For so
Besides Kissing Time, yeah, they're
well, yeah. I mean, they got some duds on there, but I mean, every band has their duds.
well,
I like Kissing Time.
I do too.
That don't surprise me one bit.
okay.
That don't surprise me one bit.
Keeping it to this list, and I think
Love theme from Kiss.
you consider yourself a big Cheap Trick fan.
I'm a fairly
Okay,
big
so
Cheap Trick fan.
all of y'all are
I
Cheap
like
Trick
them a lot.
fans.
Sure.
Would y'all say that Cheap Trick deserves to be in there?
No.
Really?
Yeah. Me personally, no. I don't see it. And I love them. I do. But see,
you pulled it
my-
right out from my point.
Well, but see, my
surprising
thing
me.
is it goes back to if it came just down to what I thought was correct or whatever, short list.
Yeah,
and
short
people
list.
would be
And
like, and no one would want to go see the museum. No one would want to go participate. Why? Because it's obscure, and you can't beat that obscurity into people. You kind of got to educate them rather than bludgeon them with it, and that's the trick. That's how you slip in this stuff like the MC5, because hopefully somebody's going to go, I never really listened to them, and maybe go look them up and be turned on to something and learn something new about music.
Well, I got a question. Do new kids get turned on to any of these old groups via this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame business? I wouldn't know. I have no idea. I'm not asking that snarky. I'm just I'm asking because I really don't know.
I think it's a contributing factor, maybe. I think it's a slice of that. Like the reason why kids will get into the MC5 or the Zombies now, I think the Hall of Fame recognition is a piece of it, but it's also when hip new groups cover these songs, when the Jack Whites and the Black Keys cover these songs, that's part of it. Commercials, when they get used in commercials or movies, it's a cumulative effect, and I think the Hall of Fame nod is probably can be factored in there to some degree. How much, I don't know.
I mean,
It's a good question. I never thought about that.
If some kids coming up through middle school now find out about, I actually go and listen to and become fans of the Bad Brains or, I'm trying to think of groups that aren't playing on it. Like, a kid can turn on classic rock radio and hear ELO or Jay Giles or Journey or Steppenwolf.
The Cars.
Yes, or
ELO
the
should
Cars.
have been in there already too.
But, I'm not so much Bad Brains or the MC5. If a kid coming up in middle school hears their names or sees a little clip on something that they're discussing this and then wants to investigate, then, more power to everybody then.
I think there'll be a certain majority of kids to do that, or a minority of kids to do that. But raising a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, I mean, we all had the cellophane, we had the CD, trying to find something to crack the CD open. We had the tape, hoping you had some nail to get it open with. But man, raising a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, it's you two. It's what that song is that day.
Yeah.
Because
And they'll learn every
That's
lyric.
because it's so
but I'm saying
disposable.
I'm not even sure that's their fault. That's just the world they came up in. Because I love buying records, not knowing what I was going to hear.
and you're
that's
not
gone.
You're not invested in it.
But you know what though? I'm not saying they won't be fans of music, but man, I lived and breathed this stuff, and it's going to be used by them as just more of side noise.
But I'm guilty myself of wanting to hear something for the first time, give it a shot because I've heard about it or whatever. And within 5 seconds, if it didn't grab me in 5 seconds, I'm just like, I don't like it. It sucks.
But you might not used to be. Did you used to be like that though, or did you listen to the whole record? Because I
Well,
did.
well, no. See,
I would listen to everything.
That's what I'm saying. When you laid the money down, especially when you're poor, you didn't have any extra income. You go spend you go spend $12, $15 on an Iron Maiden CD because it had a great cover. Then you hear it and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But then you hear it more but you listen to it over and over again because you laid down $15 for it. You're going to hear it over and over again. The Slider by T-Rex was one of those records. I bought it and it just didn't grab me. Like it really, I tried. I was like, it's just is not doing it. But because I paid the money for it,
You listen to it all.
I gave it a good hard shot. Now it's to me, it's. I'm glad I did. I love that record.
But back to the question of will the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I don't see that having an impact on many kids. But I don't know, man. I'm so out of the loop with that. I just don't know.
I mean, yeah, okay. The Hall of Fame is a cool kids club. It's basically back patting.
No, it's just another industry self-congratulation kind of thing.
But we
It's
get
another way for 'em
we
to
get
slap
sucked into
themselves
it.
on the back.
We get sucked into it.
But bands have quit being famous, haven't they?
To us,
There's no
that's
more-
my point, though. To
Yeah.
us,
I mean, but
I mean, the kids now, man. If it's
But see,
got
man,
20 million views, it's woo.
who's
You know.
a famous band now? A new band that's famous.
Everything.
They're famous for like 3 months and then they're gone.
Yeah.
But man, everything we can bring up, like your question, my statement, anything Russ has said, anything, you have to go to the end of the statement and go, or was it just that way for us? Because kids today take in stuff, reprocess stuff, become fans of stuff in ways that I just don't understand.
Me either,
man.
at all.
I don't, and
There would be world peace if everybody said that at the end of this sentence.
yeah.
Boy, I don't understand.
It's just that way for us.
And I guess in conversation or when you have a kid at work or something, that you like to rib or something, it's like, kid, blah, 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 whatever. But it all comes down to it. It was probably just that way for us, man.
I don't know, man. I had this talk with Sheila last night. I'm sitting there watching the Jeffersons, right? And I'm like, I'm all in. I'm like, this is freaking great. There's no TV even nowhere close to that. And it was probably a later episode of the Jeffersons. It wasn't even like the classic one.
You know what?
They're just not the same.
Part of that is all the distractions we now got, though. I mean, now.
Hold on a second. Okay,
What?
go ahead.
We come up to the what?
Distracted. I was distracted. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay. Well, there you go. So anyway, you think about that. When we were kids, we had 3 TV networks. You turn on your television at night, you had 3 choices. And I think now,
We were rich. We had 4. We had a UHF station.
well, UHF, PBS. You might have it. I can
Betamax.
remember where I grew up. I could only pick up one of those 3 TV stations. I grew up until I was 12 years old with one channel. Okay?
What channel was it?
ABC, the ABC affiliate out of Lynchburg,
Wow, that's tough.
That was bad.
So
We're
think
not
about it.
spending money.
So when we moved out of Roanoke, outside of Roanoke where I grew up, Virginia, and down outside of Norfolk, all of a sudden I had 5 channels, and I was just like overwhelmed. I was just like, I can't believe I got 5 TV channels. What am I gonna watch? So, but think about it. You had your basically 3 options, and I think that as cable came in and you begin to have cable networks, and then cable networks initially were doing like movies or reruns of old network shows, but eventually they started developing budgets and developing shows of their own. Now you've got an array of networks with an array of programs. The quality is going to get lessened. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I think the quality had to be a higher standard in the days of when you had 3 options, because that was you were competing against a more
3 or 4 people.
yeah,
3 or 4 network.
the competition was a lot stiffer. You're never going to have another All in the Family. I can't think of any television show that would rival that even today.
Well, I think a lot of it is.
And I think the music's
all-
the same way. The music's become fragmented over especially the last 25 years. It's become sub genres. When you got kids talking about post hardcore. What are you talking about? I don't get. That's where you go. I don't get it. That's something that because when I was a kid, you had
Thrash,
metal.
metal,
You didn't
pop.
even have that. I'm talking before that. Heavy metal was heavy metal. That was it. And the punk new wave thing was kind of lumped in as one thing. You didn't have a lot of different kind of descriptions of genres. Now you've got. And all this goes again and again. Why is some of these groups get listed into it when clearly they're not what we call rock and roll.
Yeah.
Well,
But
a lot of it is just is things are retreaded. For instance, let's use your the TV show that aspect of in the 70s when whoever was it Norman Lear
Norman Lear.
Norman
he
Lear
did.
developed a lot
I mean,
of that.
he was the effects of what he created and the templates that he set for sitcoms. I mean, sitcoms were around before then,
Right.
but it was not hard charging stuff. But whenever you had when you had shows like MASH, Good Times, The Jeffersons, All in the Family, that really they didn't just entertain you. They punched you. There was social and political message there. So he was a groundbreaking thing who did his thing really first. And then what happened is over the subsequent years, other people came along using that template.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the further you get away from it, the further you get away from whenever that was happening, it's just so much other stuff has came in to make it either more commercially viable or you just get influenced by
Well,
other
that's
things.
what I'm saying. You get the lessening of quality.
So-
and you talk about the social impact. You talk, something that had a, quote unquote biting social commentary and something like All in the Family back in 1971. By the time you fast forward to today, that same subject would be approached, and it's just, it's one of the tropes you use. It's there now. You just do it. Oh, let's, it's the obligatory episode on rape, and it's just another episode. It doesn't have the impact of like the deal with Edith, the famous,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. Nowadays, it's just another episode. It's just another subject, and it's like, well, that'll get us to next week,
You've also got to go into you have to have a going to Hawaii episode too.
Going away. Yeah.
At least
Like the Brady's.
yeah, the Brady's, the Partridges, Happy Days.
But the same. But
We should go to
the
Hawaii.
point I was making is that so you get a lessening quality there. You also had the lessening quality of music. I don't think that
Yeah.
I think bands are derivative of bands that are derivative now. And it's gotten to the point now where it's like it's gotten so watered down, and it's so much more derivative of something else that kids don't even know what the source in the beginning. I made last weekend, and I gave it to the kid this week. There's a kid that I work with, and I made him a 6-disc compilation of just the history of rock and roll, right? Just stuff that I thought was cool, I'm like, you're not going to hear a lot of this on the radio, and I started with stuff from the 50s.
6 disc of Kiss and Barefoot Jerry.
Yeah, pretty much.
Did he like Plaster Caster?
There's no Kiss on it, believe it or not.
God, come on, man.
And I realized after I was done, I was like, except for the 50s disc, there's somebody that was on every single disc that I did, or of every decade, I should
Elvis.
say.
You remember the Elvis on it?
If it's from the 50s, it can't be too many people.
No, it was Lou Reed.
Lou Reed wasn't in the 50s.
No, I said he didn't go on the 50s disc.
Oh, did you say that?
I said I put it.
I was
yeah.
distracted. I didn't hear you.
But I'm just saying, I realized there's some people that were able to sustain and maintain a certain level of whatever, and others kind of fall off or whatever else. But I'm just saying, you can see, and I realized by the time I got to the thing where I was doing the 90s, burning songs from the 90s, I did that so you could start seeing those influences seep through and come up, years later. So you got stuff from the 50s and 60s, and all of a sudden you got flat duo jets from the 90s, but you can definitely clearly hear the influence there. And I'm trying to remember who else I put on that 90s thing. But I was doing it to see if he would catch the
Pattern.
the patterns. And hopefully recognize that. And I've lost my train of thought.
Well, is
I got distracted.
Is what Jeff said about is it the same thing now that we're saying that because we are who we are now as far as age, and we've been in our minds we've seen it all, heard it all, and then like some new group of kids starts up in 500 miles from here, and they start a band up, and we listen to it and we think, well, that's just crap. I've heard it. It's crap. When Antacene formed in 1983, there was probably a guy who heard that and been like, dude, I grew up with the Who.
Right.
That's crap. That's not been done. I've done seen somebody blow up a guitar.
Yeah.
He was wrong.
Right, and we might be wrong about some of it, but I don't think so as much. I think it's going to be more and more rare that you see groups that'll have any kind of sustaining, lasting. It's like you said, you got these bands that come up, they're popular for an album, and that's almost by design. And you really see that starting around the mid '90s, where you got these groups that got signed, sold 1 million copies of a record, had a hit single, and then they were gone.
It takes them 5 years to put out another record.
Well, and that's part of the problem, probably too, because you also think about the bands that we grew up listening to, and really not even the stuff that a lot of the stuff that we like isn't stuff that we grew up as our music in our time. We're talking like MC5, where I broke up before I was born.
They were gone before I ever first heard.
So that's an influence on me, but I went back and discovered it because, again, that talks about the durability and the sustaining quality of what they did. But looking back at also the stuff that we did grow up with, especially in the early 70s, which really isn't us, but which is maybe him. But think about Elton John even, I'll put in this. They were putting out 2 albums a year.
Yeah, a lot of guys were 2
every year. And most of their best stuff was done in that time. You think about that. That's insane.
Well, you said that every band is
5-year
window.
Yeah. You got my thing is most bands get about a 5-year run where they're going to do their best, most potent stuff. Doesn't mean their stuff before or after or outside of that 5-year window is not good, but their most vital stuff is usually done in a 5-year run. But you look at, and I go back to Elton John from this just because, he put out double albums in that 5-year stretch, between 72 and 76. You got think about it. Almost everything you know about Elton John comes from that little thing. And Kiss the same way. They're first 7 years or whatever. There's 2 albums a year. Everybody was doing that back then. I think Alice Cooper did 2 albums a year for their run of the Alice Cooper group.
Well, on that Ramones, I just saw I think it was yesterday. Rocket to Russia, 39th anniversary of Rocket to Russia was yesterday. And I was like, I just bought the 40-year anniversary of the first record.
Right.
Rocket to Russia was the 3rd record. It's like
they're only a year
18
later.
months apart.
So a year and a half later
was their 3rd record.
It was their 3rd record.
If they were all alive, you think they'd still be just trucking like they were? Or you think they'd be capitalizing on this internet era? I can repress something and make $1 million.
Well, that
I can go to a Mad Monster party and sign something and make $30,000 in a weekend.
That is a what if question, which is a fair question, because bands that have said they hated each other even more than the Ramones hated each other are now out making shitty tours.
Yeah. But can you see Johnny Ramone at a hotel in Charlotte on Sunday signing autographs for $20?
Yeah.
He probably would.
Oh yeah.
Damn, I wish he was alive.
But Johnny was also a capitalist.
Yeah.
He was about the buck, and I'm not want to get too much into the Ramones, but I think I read in one of the many books that came out after they broke up that there was offers for them to get back together for tours because their name started getting big again, and Joey wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, Joey's also dying of cancer, and Johnny was pissed that we have a chance to make some more money here.
They had
Johnny
offered to go to South America for like $1 million. It would have been like 6 shows or something stupid. And
was he too sick to do it, or he just didn't
yeah,
want
he
to
was
do it?
just too well, probably both, but he was
Anyway,
That was it.
So that just created a greater wedge between whatever they already had anyway.
And as far as the Hall of Fame goes, there's a part of it that also kind of irks me a little bit, that when you see bands like, I'm trying to think of somebody good here, we talked about Bad Brains. You got a band like Pearl Jam. Well, Pearl Jam's getting in.
Yeah.
That's happening. That's in.
guaranteed.
So we're going to start seeing 90s bands. Nirvana has already been inducted, and we saw that happen. And I don't even have a problem with Nirvana getting inducted. I mean, I acknowledge their impact. Pearl Jam, they were a big band. To me, I don't even put them in that same group with Nirvana because they were way too musical. Those guys are like good session guys. What about the things that, like, for that era of 90s music, which most of those guys are going to get in. Your Alice in Chains and your Soundgardens are going to get inducted at some point too. I kind of get annoyed when the people before them that kind of came along and influenced those guys. Anti-Scene was one of them. Mudhoney was another. And the Dead Moon was another. I mean, Pearl Jam covers Dead Moon songs,
Right.
You know, in concert. Probably the biggest checks Dead Moon's ever gotten from that, and kind of irks me that Pearl Jam come way down the pipe, and now they're getting.
No, that goes back, like I said, that goes back to the commercial conciliation as opposed to the cultural.
And then you start
The
having
stuff that has the influence, doesn't necessarily have the impact.
I mean, with the first year Radiohead's able to get in, they're going to get in. Weezer, they're going to get in.
Do they pick 5?
Yeah, I think it's 5.
Yeah.
It's 5, and then isn't there like a sideman category? There's
They
like,
do the other thing. I don't think that's part of the main ceremony.
is it not?
Who do you think the 5 are going to be this year? Like, they get in for sure.
Tupac, Pearl Jam, Jane's Addiction. I'm going on a stretch here and say Electrolyte Orchestra. Chaka Khan.
You got that?
I agree with your whole list except for Shaka Khan.
Really?
I think Journey's going to
Yeah,
get it.
Journey. I'm saying Journey too.
Journey's going to win just because they're going to get that fan vote, and they'll get them in.
But the fan vote only counts for one vote of the many. Like the fan vote is not real strong. I don't know if y'all know that.
I don't know how it works.
The fan vote means very little. From what I hear, I don't see it. Now this is going to be recorded, and if I'm wrong, then y'all have that.
We'll play it back.
But I think that, and I threw Chaka Khan out there. It's kind of like that was my. But I know that Tupac Shakur is going to get it. I know that Pearl Jam's going to get it. And the funny thing about Tupac, aside from reservations about hip hop being, like, my wife is a huge fan of that that 90s hip hop, and even she's like, why him? Why they? There's all kinds of stuff that she acknowledges even more so than him. I mean, I think because he took a bullet in the head, he's.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, I can even see your point with Run DMC. I can even see. I probably wouldn't be as offended if they had Tone Loc, because that stuff was pretty much rock and roll with the
A
hip
lot of
hop
samples and stuff.
with the hip hop way of delivery. But I mean, I guess I could see that as being a crossover. But that to me, it just doesn't seem like a
To me,
crossover
to
in
me,
any way,
to me,
shape, or
Tupac
form.
Shakur was the hip hop equivalent of Poison or Motley Crue.
See, I don't know anything about it, so I can't make a comment on that. But I think between Jane's Addiction and Pearl Jam, one's going to cancel the other.
I don't see Jane's Addiction getting in.
Oh, I see both of them.
I don't. I think Yes will get in before Jane's
Yeah,
Addiction.
I
will.
don't
I think
think-
it's going to be Yes. It's going to be Pearl Jam. It's going to be. Let's see. I'm looking at the list here. Yes, Pearl Jam,
Now I want to
Gotta
be
be
wrong.
Journey, man.
I want to be wrong.
Journey.
About this.
Yeah, definitely will be in. I guess it's a possibility, but I just think, like you said, I think there's some sort of consideration towards being politically correct or whatever. Yeah, Tupac will be in. So what did I say? Yes, Tupac, Journey, Pearl Jam, and I guess the fifth one's going to be the dark horse on this. So who knows?
The Dark Lord.
Well,
the Dark Lord.
I'll tell you, they usually have a lesser known. And I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Tex squeezes in on that list.
I don't know. I would say the Zombies before Joe Tex.
Yeah.
Now, if I was the one that had to pick 5 out of here that would go, it'd definitely be Steppenwolf.
5 that you want.
Yeah, that I would pick.
Oh,
like let's say Jeff. Okay, pick the 5 that are going to go
Jeff
in.
Clayton Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Jeff Clayton Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Definitely Steppenwolf, the MC5, the J. Giles Band, ELO, and I guess just to be contrary, I'd go ahead and put in the Bad Brains. But that's not to say I don't like the Cars. I love the Cars. I love the Zombies. I love those bands. I respect the hell out of Kraftwerk. I don't think I can sit around and listen to it too much. Love Joe Tex. Love Joe Jackson. Oh, wait a minute. That's Janet Jackson.
Well, I don't get Janet Jackson falls in with the Michael Jackson and the Madonna.
Yeah,
I don't have any.
What the hell is that?
That has nothing to do with rock and roll.
Why don't they have
That's just disposable commercial pap. It is what it is.
Why don't they have Debbie Gibson or
yeah.
Tiffany?
Well, they might.
I mean,
you never know.
That's the same route you're going.
They're gonna.
If you ask me.
Get ready for it.
Jackson's.
And as far as Shaka Khan, how come it wasn't Rufus?
Yeah, that's,
you make a good point.
Every time I see her name on there, I think about
I think of Rufus.
So
Rufus and Shaka Khan.
I'm pulling for her only really because of that connection.
Well, I think the difference between Janet Jackson and Tiffany and Debbie Gibson is that the Jackson family is, to a degree, they're industry royalty.
Yeah.
Tiffany's not. Tiffany is.
But and my thing is, Michael Jackson, biggest selling record of all time. Who's the band on it?
Toto.
Why ain't Toto in? You know who's got a major hard on about that? And
The singer from Toto?
The guitar player, Steve Lukather. He is not shy about talking about it either. That guy has played on more. He's probably the most. If he were able to claim sales for everything he's played on, probably has sold more records than anybody. Steve Lukather, because he's on, just for that Michael Jackson record alone. But then you factor in how many millions of records Toto sold.
So
then you
Toto
factor
played
in
on Thriller.
Yeah, they're the studio band. On
Yeah, they're the backup.
They're the
never
whole
knew that.
band.
If it's not the whole band, it's like
It's
the majority.
Well, that's what Toto was. They were a session band.
Yeah, that was a session.
Studio.
Yeah.
Like that shitty band Autograph. They were just a session band. And Toto was on that.
And do they get by rights? Do you acknowledge that even as for what it is? They were, because they played on all these records and yada yada yada. Should they not get some sort of acknowledgement and recognition as well? Is that valid? I don't know. I say no, but I could accept the argument.
That would be a
for
good
it.
documentary on Netflix, like the Wrecking Crew thing was.
I would like. I don't have
because none of the guys from the Funk Brothers from. Are they recognized in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? That's Motown.
That
is Motown.
Well, like with Michael Jackson, he's in as a solo artist.
Yeah.
But Janet Jackson has sold 100 million records.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That goes into the commercial.
She was on Good Times, man. I'm gonna throw her a bone now. I say she gets in there.
Steve's needs are simple.
Yeah. I say she gets in there.
But she was a kid and she wasn't hot when she was on Good Times.
Yeah, but she was on Good Times.
I got to steal the Gene Simmons quote. He was talking about Joni Mitchell, but I'll apply it to Janet Jackson. It's like, wouldn't buy her records, but I would fuck her.
That was Russ Ward who said that, by the way. It was not Clayton, me, or Steve, by the way. Okay, well, here, since we're kind of going through this list a little bit, what about?
But Barry acknowledges it.
Barry's like, I would too.
What about Depeche Mode?
No,
I don't know enough about them.
But they don't.
One or two songs there's that I like, but I wouldn't even. I don't.
No,
that whole alternative thing. I guess is where it comes in at.
You talk about Dark Horse.
Yeah,
they very well might.
I doubt it.
Who's voting for this thing though? I know you said
it's like 600 people.
It's a bunch of people.
So it's an actual
Like
journalist.
there's an industry.
Right.
They selected 600 people.
And the people vote accounts for one of those. Like whenever we
out of 600.
Yes.
Oh, I feel like an idiot.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's it means nothing.
No, I didn't realize that.
It's more of a promotional tool.
Well, it makes people feel like they're involved.
So you probably could vote 5
If
times.
I could pick on here, well, to me, Steppenwolf not being on there, even though they only had like 3 big songs, they had a lot of good songs. But I mean, they coined the term heavy metal just for that. I mean, just for Born to Be Wild, you don't ever want to hear it again. You're never going to choose to listen to it.
No.
But it should be on. You know, that Steppenwolf should definitely be in there. MC5.
Hey man, I'll tell you something about the MC5. The clips of them on Gimme Danger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot about the MC5 I don't like. I don't like that White Panther Party shit. I don't like John Sinclair. I stood 15 feet away from John Sinclair one time. Thought maybe I should go up and say hey or nothing. And I just said, nah, fuck it, call me. You know, and I didn't. And I don't like that whole commune crap they did. But man, there is no. Those clips of them when they were at their peak on 10.
Oh,
man,
yeah.
Nothing could touch that shit, man.
Them at the DNC in '68.
That's what I think ultimately hurt them in the long run. Was I think they just got blacklisted, and no one wanted to touch that. It was just too hot. Nowadays, that would be the gimmick, first gimmick they'd give you. But back then,
What do you mean the whole
the
political
whole political thing.
Yeah.
Back then, that hurt them. I mean, that stymied them bad.
Okay, let's talk about the political end of this as far as like the political cultural aspect. Ted Nugent's never going to get in.
Right.
He'll never get in.
But I don't know that he's.
I could see him being nominated, man.
No, Ted Nugent.
I don't think he's
Ted Nugent
on that level anyway.
Ted Nugent is basically a Klansman in the eyes of the people who they're not going to be on there. And I don't have an opinion about that either.
Is your Mount Pleasant?
I have no opinion on that either way. But I will say I was completely shocked, probably more than anybody else, when Leonard Skinner got inducted. Like when that band got inducted, I was surprised.
That didn't really
I don't know if I was surprised about that.
I was just
Leonard Skinner used to have a rebel flag the size of a football field hanging beside him. Did you ever hear people say Leonard Skinner's a racist? I never did.
But just because that controversy has been huge for the past.
But I think people,
12,
but I think
15
people
years.
that live here where all that stuff goes on, I don't look at that as being racist. I don't, and I mean, so that's a whole nother discussion.
you're
But
talking-
when I see a rebel flag behind Leonard Skinner, I'm like, cool background.
I'm not talking.
It has nothing to do with race.
They don't do it anymore.
I'm not talking about the way I feel about it. I'm talking
Last time
about
I saw him, they did.
a committee led by a guy,
Right. Somebody in New York would think that.
a guy from New York or a guy from San Francisco.
What they have at the thing they played a few months ago, or whatever that was called. They played
At the
rebel thing or whatever. What was it called?
whatever that comes.
Okay.
What they have?
Carolina Rebellion.
Yeah.
They played there, didn't they?
What they have behind them?
I don't know. I didn't even see him.
There wasn't a rebel
But
flag.
listen. Lyrically, though, Leonard Skinner's were very much a leftist band.
Understand, and I agree.
At the end of the day,
I agree. I'm not talking about what the
The
reality is.
dichotomy there is easily forgiven because ultimately, at the end of the day, what stands is what the music they left behind, and lyrically, that fell in line with what's okay and acceptable.
But man, honestly though, you got to admit that when these, overly PC committees start picking on stuff like that, they're not listening to what they say. I'm surprised they got in too.
Because the average person hears the word Leonard Skinner. And I'm not talking about music nerds. I'm talking about the average person on the street hears Leonard Skinner. It's some sister fucking rednecks from Georgia or Florida. That's exactly the way.
Oh, they're from Alabama.
That is the
sitcom.
that is the image that it conjures up when the words Leonard Skinner are put out there by the majority of people. Leonard Skinner is actually used as an insult when talking about a bunch of rednecks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
And the fact that they were picked just shocked me. It really did shock
It
me.
did me too.
And I want to turn this in a different
And
direction.
then they came in and wiped the floor with everybody. When
I was going to tell you. I was
that
going
was
to
good.
say. I want to turn this to maybe a little bit more positive spin, which I like the controversy. But let's talk about the when these guys get together. First off, what is something like sticks out to you as like just like they go and mop the floor with everybody?
You're talking about the end of the show, right?
Well,
The
just
performances.
the performance of whenever
I
they get
got one.
I'm going to go ahead and admit right here, I've never, ever watched Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony when it was first broadcast. Never have. I never had MTV. So, is that who plays it?
It's bounced around.
bounced
Or is it?
around.
Okay.
It's bounced around.
Well,
Sometimes it's live.
But
sometimes
I've
it's
seen
not.
them. I've seen them afterwards, and of all the live performance I ever seen, that Leonard Skinner performance was one of the best. And Jeff, I thank you for showing me all that. You're the one that pretty much gives me my damn highlights of all that. Like you told me about the Blondie induction and how embarrassing that was, man. That was asshole clenching embarrassing. I mean, he's sitting there watching that, going like, "God damn, why don't these sons of bitches just shut up?"
For better or for worse, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is rock and roll history as it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I watch them whether I like it or not. And when I watch that live, I'm sitting there and you know they're going to play the two songs they play. They played Sweet Home Alabama, which I'll never want to hear that again. And then they played Freebird, and I'm thinking, you know, it's Freebird. They're going to do it. Who cares?
Nah, it was a different. It was taking Freebird to a different level.
And for the first part of it, it was just a standard radio version. But when they hit that second half, I mean, to this day, I love Freebird now when I never did before. Like I think about that song. So that was I'm like you. That was one of them. You gotta.
Did the Clash play?
No.
I don't think they did.
Joe Strummer had died by that point.
Yeah, I figured they would have still played.
I think he died like the year before. It was pretty
It
close.
was soon. Yeah.
You have one, Russ.
I saw the Stooges performance. I thought the Stooges performance was pretty good.
Yeah, he didn't like it. I was fine with it.
And I liked Alice Cooper's.
See, I didn't like it.
It was
Alice
okay.
Cooper.
I thought Alice looked like his action figure. That's what turned me off. It's like let me get everything I've ever done.
That's kind of how he looks now.
But I'm gonna say that turned me off to that particular. But I like the performance, but the way he looked with the white blouse almost thing with the blood and the snake, I was like, man, that's like I would draw that. But as far as my favorite, man, and you brought this up one night. I don't know if we were watching it at the same time or whatever, but watch Prince.
Oh,
When he throws the guitar up in the air, where does it go?
Yeah.
He throws his guitar up in there when he gets done, and it doesn't come down.
Just walk.
Yeah, he does.
So as a performer, I'm like, who caught that? You know, watch it, man. It'll trip you out because he's not like near the stage or anything. He just throws it up in there and it doesn't come back down. Somebody's like right there grabbing it.
The Beatles cover.
Yeah, the Why My Guitar Jewel. Man,
Yeah.
that kicks ass.
And that's coming from a guy who
so
does. That's,
fucking good.
and I was watching that, didn't care. It was just like, okay, it's these guys. Jeff Lynne, I like Jeff Lynne on it, so I was thinking, you know, it was good. And you didn't even see Prince. Prince is way off to the side in the corner.
Yeah.
Like you don't even see him while they're playing. You know, you got what's that guy from Traffic, Steve Winwood. He was up there, I think. And it was all right. Tom Petty. I'm not a huge Tom Petty fan, but whatever. He was nailing it all right. But when
And out of the shadows comes
Yeah.
Prince and just lays it down,
and I'm like, I didn't know this guy could do that.
it was good. It was good as hell. Yeah, that might be the best one. That might be the best one.
Yeah, that's
That was a good one. That was a good one.
The Leonard Skinner was one. I think the thing about the Leonard Skinner, and I meant to bring this up a while ago, is that not only was I glad that they did it so great. If you know the dynamic of the band and the people who are still alive, they all hate each other.
Yeah.
You basically got 4 factions of people on that stage who fucking hate each other, who have made documentaries about each other, and have accused each other of pedophilia and just being the worst human beings. They get on stage together as a class act, a bunch of rednecks from the South, and Black Sabbath got inducted the same night.
Who remembers that?
Didn't play.
They didn't play. Metallica got up there and shit out 4 or 5 songs that were terrible.
Yeah, that was bad.
They was terrible.
Shit out for
And the bad thing is, the bad thing that pissed me off about it is they were all 4 members of Sabbath, the ones that matter, were there.
Yeah.
The 4 members of Sabbath were
Is Dio
there.
still alive?
What, a deal was it?
I deserve that. Four members. The 4 members of that band were not only there, they were on good terms and doing things like they were a functioning unit at that time. They didn't play. Blondie gets up there, and
Same night?
yeah, same night, and
I
like
have
just
to watch it. I haven't seen that.
oh man,
Oh,
it's
man, it's
embarrassing.
fucking
Do
terrible.
they play?
Yeah, they
Well,
played.
I'll watch it.
The playing's all right. It's not terrible, but the
Well, I couldn't believe Elvis Costello got up there with that bass player that he hates so bad. Now, he didn't let him play.
well that's another thing I want to get to in a minute, but the and the Sex Pistols, which the other class act of the night, they were just like, fuck you, we're not showing up, and I have a lot of respect for that. But the fact that they outshined, basically, they outshined Metallica and Black Sabbath and Blondie, that added extra. If I had to pick one that blew me away, and I'm not even a Patti Smith fan, but Patti Smith, I thought she did Rock and Roll Nigger, and just knocked. I don't know if you ever saw it.
That was good.
I've seen it.
It
But, hey, you know what
was-
else they
and
did
I don't
that
even
night?
like Patti
That was
Smith.
the night REM also got inducted.
And they did.
And what did they play?
I Want to Be Your Dog.
Before the Stooges were even inducted. There you go again. That's what I'm talking about, the impact of the influence of something. When you got something where they've gathered and they're, slapping themselves on the back, and what are they going to do as a standard?
They do. I Want to Be Your Dog.
They do a Stooges song. Yeah. The thing about that whole thing, though, is that's not a great environment to do to display rock and roll in and to play
I thought
in.
about that.
You
too.
know,
No.
it's
Everybody
like-
sitting around
it's
seats.
dinner theater in there,
Yeah, you're right.
and I'm like, that's what makes. I think that's what hurt that Stooges thing. It's funny when he was getting ready. They were finishing up their induction. And Iggy's like, kind of rocking, and you can see him in the back. He starts taking his shirt off. He's like getting ready, and you're just like, yes, And then they were playing, and the audience is just like,
Well, he made a
blink,
joke.
blink, blink,
He made a joke about that. He goes, I know there's a couple of Stooges fans up in the top seats up here. He goes, I doubt many of you could afford for the expensive ones down
It would have
front.
been funny if he came and got on somebody's table or something, and
I thought he did.
I don't think he did.
I thought he did for I Want to Be Your Dog. I thought he
remember.
stepped on someone's table.
He should have. It was. I thought the performance they did when they did the Madonna stuff was better. But
Well, I tell
I've
you,
never seen that. I'm going to go look that up tonight if
my
it's on YouTube.
my
anymore.
problem with the Iggy
that was
Pop
when
with
that was when they had
Stooges.
Ron Ashton. He was still alive. But
The
he
prob-
wasn't alive when they got inducted, so they had James Williamson playing.
The problem with the Stooges one and it's a minor thing, but the fact that they had the guy from Green Day inducting them,
Oh yeah.
I fucking hate that guy.
And that goes in again, this whole commercial thing. To me, it's like I use the term a lot. I call it obviousness or bottom shelf obviousness. Bottom shelf is the easiest, most readily accessible. You do Black Sabbath, we'll just get Metallica. They're in the metal band, we'll just get Metallica. There's
Well-
no creativity or thought into something that is supposed to be
When
creativity.
they should
and,
have paid for a reunion of Witchfinder General.
Well, or somebody.
Damn
I'm just
right.
saying.
Me and Steve would have been the happiest guys in the world.
They don't let the.
I love the Rock and Roll.
They don't
Hall of
let
Fame.
the inductees choose the inductors.
They don't?
No.
I thought they did. I thought that was.
Are you sure about that? 'Cause
Yeah.
that seems
Yeah.
odd.
I've read that on multiple places.
What'd you say?
That's been a
I was
problem for
distracted.
some things. Yeah, they said that the inductees don't get to choose who's doing the inducting.
So who would pick Tom Morello for Kiss?
I don't know.
That would be.
But which actually was good. I enjoyed it.
I guess, but I'm just saying,
Who the hell's that?
I don't,
Rage Against the Machine.
which makes me think of another thought. The Stooges movie, we watched that yesterday. There's two people you think you can't make a documentary without having them involved. They're not involved in that.
They're not
movie.
in it.
Dave Grohl's not
Dave
in it?
Grohl was
no
not
Dave
ever
Grohl.
in
Henry
this
Rollins?
thing.
There's no Henry Rollins.
Henry Rollins is not in a documentary.
About the Stooges.
I've seen. Henry
There's
Ro-
no outside voices
seen-
in that movie
I've-
except for Danny Fields.
I have seen Henry Rollins on cooking shows.
Rachel Ray.
Yeah, just on like a cooking show, like on the Food Network.
Is he making oatmeal?
Just some bullshit. I love. Now everybody's kind of turning on Henry Rollins. Now they're making fun of him. The Hard Times like stabbing him every once in a while.
I love the Hard Times.
Have you seen that the hard times where that?
What they say about something about
You-
a Henry app where it tells you, well, he tell you how harder it was to get to the place you're going in the 80s.
The whole.
But you know what? To his credit, I'm pretty sure he has a pretty good sense of humor about this stuff.
Oh, I
because
don't hate him.
I've heard that people bring him that Glenn and Henry comic book to autograph, thinking that they're going to get a rise out of him, and he autographs it. He's just like, whatever.
That's cool.
You know, but Danzig not so much.
I would imagine not.
Yeah.
You did get the poster though. That was cool.
Yeah, I got the movie poster.
Okay, I think we've beat that dead horse, and I did want to bring this up. What did you think of the documentary?
Loved it.
Really?
I couldn't think of nothing that would make it better. It's that maybe a little bit of the performance stuff maybe go on a little longer, but that's not what it's about at that point.
It's a story.
Yeah, and
Do you think it's because the filmmaker Jarmusch is he's just a big fan?
oh, you could tell it was done by a fan. Yeah, he didn't try to make them look silly.
Well,
I guess there were times in it where they kind of did that themselves, but
What's the word you use? Pitimentary? It wasn't a pitimentary.
It was not a pitimentary, even though four of the guys involved were dead, and you know you're sitting there watching an interview with three of the guys that were, you know, alive, never saw this thing come out. You know, it was pretty sad at the end when they show the rest in peace type thing for all the guys, but you know. But nowhere in it was there a part with slow piano music.
yeah, that part bothers me. Like not from a like it gets me worked up, but like a cheap route to me. The last 15 minutes piano part that makes you want to
Behind the
feel
music.
bad for it. Just
It's a formula. It's just
Dusty and I like will sit there and watch something and just be like, how can they like make this sad? Like they would do it on anything. They did it for the Thor documentary.
That was great.
yeah, well,
And see, to me, I think that documentary was made by. I mean, they can say it was a fan. And I have friends who are in that
I
documentary,
do too.
and I know that they are fans.
tell about the Thor one.
Yes, the Thor documentary for clarity. But to me, man, it seemed like the guy, and I could be wrong about this, and you know, the guy may hear this and email me about it. But to me, it seemed like he was kind of making fun of them.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't think that was very complimentary, and I didn't think it was very fair, and I didn't enjoy
Well,
it
I
for
thought
that
the
reason.
band was making fun. It was like, I mean, how do you not? I guess my question would be, how do you not make fun?
I
of
don't
that,
think
though?
they were making fun of themselves. I mean, yeah, what they do is a little silly, but I
Yeah.
think they understand that.
Well, I think the
But-
only one who don't understand it is that guy.
Which
Like
is what makes it creepy, though. It's
That-
kind of.
I think they definitely were making. They saw this opportunity to like. They found some because that stuff was filmed over a 10-year period. I think they come across this footage and they were like, "Wow, we can really kind of stick it to this."
But see, man, it's kind of for the same reason. I get no enjoyment whatsoever out of that documentary, The Wild and Wonderful Whites.
I have no interest in it.
I think that's a spit in the face of those people. It's not showing them in any kind of positive light. It's for other people to look at, make fun of, and point at.
Gawk.
And
It's voyeuristic.
I don't like it. And I think on a much smaller level of that, that's kind of what was going on with that Thor documentary, and for that reason, I really don't like it.
What about when I saw the Thor documentary, I kind of equated it a little bit to that Anvil documentary, but I think that the Anvil documentary wasn't so much making fun of as it was. I will say, the guy took an opportunity for a kind of a shit show that he had privy to, so he made a documentary about it. I felt like the Thor documentary was a little more mean spirited.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the way I felt about it.
And that's just how it comes off to me. I mean, the guy could probably be sitting here with us right now and plead his case that wasn't the case at all, but that's just how it come off.
But there's also a certain what's the word I'm looking for? You have to try to also get people interested.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was something that was a little less swarmy, would there be quite as much buzz about it? Because the guy who made that documentary, he wants people to watch it. He wants people to be buzz about it. He wants people to joke about it and laugh about it, so more people watch it. If it was a straight documentary, maybe not as many people would have watched it.
Speaking of documentaries, man, if I had a dime for every time someone said there should be a documentary on us, I had me a lot of damn dimes. There's never going to be one, because even with having members die and all that, we really don't have a slow piano part. And there's not.
I've said that to you, and I still think it should happen.
I want my dime too.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that will happen. Maybe with technology now, it'd be easier. But if that ever does happen, and I have no dog in the fight, it should be, like I was telling you, it should be a happy documentary. It should be a just. I don't know, man. I don't see any piano stuff in that either.
Because when we play, and I'm sorry if this is going off.
No.
Jim, but
I'm just forming a thought.
When we play, and we hit all cylinders and all that, and we get paid at the end of the trip, we don't sit there, drive home, and feel sorry for ourselves.
Yeah.
The things that make us upset with ourselves is stuff that the outside fan probably never even considers or even thinks that we go through. And I don't know. I just think I've had people tell me, award-winning documentary makers tell me, they don't know what angle to take on this story.
As a fan, I would like to see it happen.
Do you think that's their way of saying you got too many Confederate flags in your past?
It very well could be. I mean,
is that their way of saying that?
Yeah, it could be.
Or,
I don't know.
Or do they have a point? When you say you don't have a slow, sad piano part, I think you're wrong. I mean, you definitely got one now.
Yeah.
And anybody that's going to make a documentary that wants people to watch it, that's the formula now, and that's what they're going to want to.
But I think the story. If you were going to make a documentary on our band, would be the fact that despite all the crappy things that have happened to us, I mean, you could take all the instances from one tour, like that infamous tour we did all the way around the United States during the LA riots and all. There was something at every stop, something big, that most bands would have gotten their van and turned around and went the fuck home. But we didn't. We still don't. We still go through stuff that if most bands had to do it today, they'd go, oh, this is too hard. I'm not going to do this anymore.
Well, a lot of it also, I'm not saying you should be happy about this, but if the wrong person was to do that documentary, you wouldn't get you wouldn't be accurately portrayed like the way you would want it to be. Like, for instance, the Tad documentary. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I haven't, no.
It's out there. I like Tad.
Yeah, I like Tad.
A good bit. Influential. He goes in that list of bands like you and Mudhoney that have been overlooked. But the documentary is shit.
At this point, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, would you even want one made? Or is too much to think about?
You know what? That's a weird question, because I wouldn't want to make a documentary if I got to be the one making it. But at the same time, I wouldn't want someone who had an agenda to kind of sideswipe us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have to be someone who understands us. Because a lot of people that hate it, I don't necessarily think, they hate us because they don't understand it. But a lot of the negative shit that we get sometimes is because people don't understand us. And maybe I'll go ahead and put myself in front for this one. Maybe I don't explain or express ourselves in a way that is easy to understand. You know.
Well, you guys made a choice 20, 25 years ago to not care about that, or to not make it a priority to explain
Actually,
yourselves.
that choice was made 33 years ago.
But I mean, when you really got into the, when you guys, I don't say adopted, when you implemented your Southern culture, which you did much more in the late 80s, early 90s than you did in, say, 83. And I'm saying that from just a spectator. You might disagree with that.
No, I agree with you 100%.
You may not have cared in 83, but boy, you really took on a commitment.
In 88, 89.
Yeah, you really, you drew the line.
Actually, I think it was more so probably in 92.
You drew the line in the sand, where maybe in 83 your enemy was heavy metal and cock rock, hair metal.
Yeah, it was hair metal.
But when you guys went in that, when you guys took that on in the late 80s, your enemy became punk rockers. So that's I'm with you 100%. But you knew at the time that was kind of a one way hallway.
That was
a
a one-way ticket purchased, wasn't it?
But been around so long, one of the old enemies does not even exist. Hair metal. I mean, that's amazing. That doesn't even exist anymore. Something he's competing against, maybe.
That goes back all the way back to the Thor thing. Is the angle on that is that irony thing? That's kind of that's the hook now. And I think that's part of the generational thing, is like kids that are younger than us look back at that and see it as so cheesy. We didn't see it. We saw it maybe as cheesy, but those guys that were participating in that LA scene back in the 80s didn't realize how cheesy they were. Now you've got that perspective to look back and you're just like, oh. And kids look at it and it's ironic. It's funny, So now they have to put that kind of like spin of irony on it. It's like, oh, we're laughing at it, but we like it, but it's funny, and there's like some sort of, the justification is that they're they get it, they got that knowing wink kind of thing going. And that's why I don't like a lot of these bands that have come up since. I'm not going to name names. Some of them might have come from Raleigh.
Do they
and claim to be from another planet, but anyway, that whole "we rock" nudge, nudge, wink, wink, get it? And it's like, no, I get it, and it's not fucking funny to me. That's where I get offended, because I'm like, I take this shit seriously. It's not a fucking joke to me.
The band, one of the bands you don't want to mention, does their name rhyme with the Arkness?
Oh, I'll say that. Darkness, yeah. But I'm just saying, because they're doing it with their tongue in cheek. They're not sincere about what they're doing.
But see, I don't buy that from them.
No, they're good.
We're not
good
going to
as
argue.
hell.
Well, we won't argue the darkness, but you understand what I'm saying in general.
I know what you mean.
There has been a wave of that in bands that'll.
Well,
and I think that played into that, how that whole approach to that Thor thing was done, with that kind of like, we're going to put our tongue in our cheek and kind of, we're going to bring out the irony in it. If we can't bring out the pitimetery, we'll do the ironymetery.
Documentary.
And that's where I think a lot of that comes from, and I think that's why now the lessening and the cheapening of the culture. That's why.
But they show Thor's band in that airport overseas. We had that same shit happen to us just recently. Remember? We went. The guy goes, meet us at so and so. We go upstairs. We're up there. Oh no, it's not up there. So we go downstairs. Then we're just like, and I'm getting really fed up at this point. I had to just go sit down, and Gooch was beside me, and we're just like going, man. I said, we're gonna tell the motherfucker we're right here. Come get us here. It was just like up, down, over here, across the street. No, back across the street. No, let's go down here. It was just like, it's funny now, but I don't want someone making a documentary going, see, these guys are so stupid that they can't even get around in an international airport.
I think that's.
We don't need to now because you just admitted it.
I think the again, it goes back to what I'm saying. You got to be real careful how you do those things, because the wrong person can put the wrong spin on it. And my problem with a lot of the documentaries that have been out there is that they kind of fall into the template. Some of them came along a little bit earlier and they were better. Like I think the band Death. I thought it was a good documentary. I like the documentary better than the band.
Yep.
But I felt like the Pentagram documentary was just kind of
Another pedimentary.
That's a pedimentary if there ever was.
It was
was
entertaining as fuck.
Oh, it's entertaining.
it's entertaining.
But you feel kind of dirty watching it because you're getting your entertainment is being derived from another person's misery.
Yeah, but the anti-scene story to me doesn't even.
Well,
it's not even the same thing. So I mean, that couldn't
right.
be. I mean,
but you turn around and sometimes though, I mean, same thing with really you could say that about the MC5 documentary, which not everyone's gotten a chance to see because it's never got a proper release. And that definitely has its hardcore piano moments in it, and rightly so. But it's done in a way that isn't so much a pedimentary. It's just like, damn, I mean, I guess it is, but
Well, it's all about how it's edited.
but it's
right?
done in a respectful way, and I don't know that the pentagram thing is I guess it's done in kind of a respectful way. I don't know. I don't think it's the same. I don't know how to really verbalize it.
that's a weird dude, man.
But
Legally.
I think. But then you got conversely, what you love Twisted Sister, but you weren't real happy with that documentary because
my problem with that is length. It was way too long.
There was nothing. There was really nothing revelatory about it.
No, there was things that filled. There was things that. Yeah, there was not revelatory, but it shine a light on an aspect of the band I didn't know about.
It tells the story, but it's just the story. There's no dramatic depth
there's
to it.
there's no arc.
Story.
There's
yeah,
no arc
again,
But
it's
it was
like,
entertaining as
but
fuck.
it is. Especially if you're a fan.
I'm glad I'm me.
You
I
know?
like Kissing Time. I like Door Talk.
I do too. And that's why we like each other.
But
So
you
if I
don't
go-
like Whataburger.
I like
I like Pulp Fiction.
the Thor the Pentagram documentary I liked just fine. In fact, I really liked the music.
Yeah.
That was the funny thing. Like I appreciated from a movie making standpoint the Death documentary more than but I didn't like the band Death. It just didn't do anything for me. But the Pentagram documentary, like I walked away from that liking the music more.
But Twisted Sister never had a story other than just playing.
Yeah,
I mean, so that's kind of what it was. I mean, they never really had any.
Yeah, but if you didn't see
If
that
they did,
documentary, all you knew was
yeah.
that they got on MTV.
If my point is, if they did, they didn't tell the story.
Yeah.
Well,
We don't know about it.
The
still.
story is kind of weak because what happened with the documentary with the Twisted Sister story is that the angle was that all these missed opportunities, like they put out Under the Blade and then immediately the label folds. I mean, that was their big thing that they just kept trying. To me, it doesn't really work because they end up being huge for 2 years. They end up becoming one of those bands of the 80s that is still looked at today as like...
We got the backstory, not the story.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And a lot
There's
of
still the story has not been told, and that's really going to be once they've made their success and it falls off. Which again, that goes into is that going to be a pedimentary? That's always the story.
But that's already out there. I mean, the behind the music has already done that story.
See, I haven't seen that. I don't
See,
know, maybe I did.
see, talking about a documentary that you watch, and then you come away being a fan. I did that with that one about Jaco Pastorius. I mean, I always knew who he was.
Yeah,
I knew he was a bass player,
that was good as hell.
and I think I first heard him play with Joni Mitchell. And I never that big of a Joni Mitchell fan, but when I watch, I mean, but there's hardly a way to not go into the world of pedimentary when you are beaten to death by bouncers and go into a coma and die. I mean, you pretty much can.
Is there a difference between though? That's what I'm trying to decide. Is like, what's the difference between something that's tragic or tragedy and just something that's just like milking something for your pity just to kind of provide a story arc? Does that make us?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? There
yeah,
is
I
a
understand what
difference.
you're
That's what I'm
saying.
saying. That's why I think.
But
that,
if you don't have the tragedy to make the story out of,
yeah,
then
but
you make
I think it's just
a
again. I
formula.
think it's the way it's presented and the way the story's told.
I mean-
I don't think it's so much that it's not that you're like being manipulated into pity.
So-
it's telling this is the
This is
bald
what
faced
happened.
truth of it.
This is what happened.
Because
and
I
this
didn't
is
get
very
that off.
tragic.
I mean, there's that middle in the Stooges movie, and it never felt like a pitimentary. But they had some heinous shit happen to them, but it never plays like that because the way he tells the story, and obviously, what provides the punch at the end is if you've had some sort of adversity that you've overcome, and that's the payoff. It's just how you how you look at it, I guess.
So-
I like I said, I don't really know the verbiage for it.
So, in order for a story like that to come across on the screen effectively, does it need to have the piano moment?
No.
It's just a tool in their toolkit, ain't
But
it?
like okay, like we talked about the Twisted Sister one. I didn't think it was all that great. It had a lot of good footage. It introduced me to some aspects of them that I didn't know existed. But from like a documentary standpoint, like it was just a story of them in their club days.
It didn't have a slow piano part either.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
that's
That's my question.
Okay.
The parts that of a documentary I don't get. I don't think it's important to know of every single member that has been in the band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that's important. I mean, I think what's more important is your eras, and what was accomplished during those eras or what you were striving for during those eras, not so much every single guy that came and went. And that Twisted Sister documentary was kind of every single guy that came and went.
Iron Maiden did one about 10, 12 years ago called Early Years. And it was damn near an hour and a half before you even heard Paul Di'Anno's name. I mean, they were talking to these people too. These people that were around when they were just a garage band.
See,
But isn't that
is that
a
important?
documentary though? I mean, but
Is it important?
it would be to like a super Iron Maiden nerd that
might
wants
be.
to
See,
know
that's
all
that's
the shit that already
and
is
that
out
goes
there.
that goes into the differences between what you take into it. It's like to me the thing I was telling somebody last night about the Stooges doc is that I was like, well, the thing about it is if you're a Stooges fan, you already know all this. They're not gonna. It's not revelatory necessarily, but it's done in a way that's still really good and it's worth watching, even if you know all this information, because it's just another way of telling the story. But more importantly, the movie succeeds on its own afterwards because people that aren't fans of the band can still watch it and come away with something, as opposed to it just being.
Well, that's a
It's not, and it's not just a behind the music way. I'm saying they'll come away maybe educated into something that they didn't know before.
Well, I'm looking forward to that being on Netflix.
As opposed to being just a fan documentary, which is valid and fair. I mean, you don't get that when you watch, the Kiss documentary. What is it called? The thing that came out about
Behind
92?
the music,
No, they did
behind the scenes.
Extreme Close-Up.
Extreme Close Up.
That was a promotional thing.
I'm saying that's a history of Kiss, and it works for what it does. And as a fan, I
I'm
can
not
watch
putting
it and
it down,
enjoy
'cause
it
Steve
because it
and I
hits
know
all
that.
the stuff. But it's
I've
not.
only watched that probably
It's not a.
50s,
It's
100
not.
times.
It doesn't have that whatever.
But we talked the other
with the
day
French
about
call. I don't know what.
about a member of our band about how he left and how another member got called just because his CD happened to be sitting on the table when one stormed out.
Yeah, I guess
Well,
that
would
is
somebody look? I mean, how
I guess
many
that
people-
isn't. I guess little details like that people would like to know. But
Yeah, but we're not going to tell anybody.
But like, how do you work? I mean,
But that wouldn't really be
But-
part of the overall story.
but it would
No.
be a. It would be the Tom Petty documentary then, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It'd
Well,
be
see,
four,
I
it'd be
think-
4 hours. I had to
but-
watch that in sessions, man.
But see, I think that documentary does need to be, and again, I have no dog in the fight. I think that documentary would need to be 3 or 4 hours. Why not put it all out there and let people just take their time and watch it? Because it's not going to be in the movie theater.
Well,
I mean, let it be 3 or 4 hours and get it all out there.
I think it has to be a watchability factor because some people. I mean, I'm not going to watch that Tom Petty documentary because it's 3 or 4
Well,
hours.
I did, but
I did. It was good as hell.
I watched, but I didn't watch it at one time. I
that
watched
early
it.
stuff was amazing.
And the Jaco Pastorius, I have not watched it. You're the first person I've heard that said they like it. 3 things keep me from wanting to watch it. First off, I don't know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, he's a bass player. Third,
What's wrong with fucking bass player?
Third, it was made by the guy from Metallica. Shouldn't be factoring that in there. That is.
See, I had no idea that motherfucker made it.
That is petty.
Only to play devil's advocate. I don't know nothing about that at all, but I heard he was like super fan and had all his bases and stuff. So
And
I
that guy
don't
might,
know.
that guy might be a great guy. I don't care about him.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Well, listen, I'll tell you guys another documentary that's awesome. Someone who I only heard of over the last few years. I may have heard a little bit of his music and thought it was okay when I heard it and liked it. Became a fan when I watched it. The one about that dude Fella.
Fela Kuti or something.
Yeah. Man, he was the damn Gigi Allen of damn world music.
Yeah.
I didn't know he existed.
Allen of Africa.
I didn't know he existed until I saw the Ginger Baker documentary,
Right.
because he's linked up in that one too. He
Yes.
I had heard of him before that through somebody, but I'd never heard him. And I've listened to some of his stuff since.
okay.
But yeah, stuff like that. That's part of the end game when you can educate somebody into it and maybe turn them on to stuff.
Well, let me do a round table. Start with Barry because he's always last. What's like? I say rock and roll documentary. What is like the number one like you will always watch, like your favorite?
That's an odd question to ask Barry. Yeah.
You asking me to
You're asking the
remember
producer. The
something.
producer said he ain't part of the show.
Producers talked a lot.
Hey, he has talked a lot today.
You
He
don't
doesn't
have
have an
one.
opinion.
Nah.
Then okay, you think you pass?
Huh?
Not even like Philip from the Fury.
No.
What about you, Jeff?
I have watched Filth and the Fury a lot of times. I've watched the one about the Ramones an awful lot of times. As far as what's my favorite, I can't shake the feeling I got from watching Gimme Danger last night. So
Really?
I'm not in a position to give you a...
Okay, well let me ask you this. Aside from Gimme Danger, do you have a standard that you can watch over and over? That you just
I can watch Filth and the Fury over and over and over again.
now see, and this is not my pick, so I can say that I liked Filth and Fury a lot, a little long. I think the classic albums they made of that record
Yeah,
was
that's
better.
awesome, too.
I like that one better. It was a little less artistic. But I do love Filth and Fury. I think it was really good.
The MC5 doc, I think, kind of tops him.
See, I thought I was kind of saying you were going to go with that Who documentary. You really was big on that Who documentary.
It's
that came
good,
out.
but I'm just going. Even if as not a fan, I think you could enjoy, especially that. Not being a fan of Towns Van Zandt prior, you talk about how you get turned on to stuff. I watched that Towns doc. It's really, really good, and it turned me on to Towns. So,
I need to go back on something for a second. I've probably watched The Kids Are All Right more than I've watched any documentary about a rock band ever. And I don't necessarily think that's the best one of the because the Who's got a lot of stuff out there.
I would agree. I've
Well,
watched that
the
more
good-
than any of them.
And the Who ain't afraid to put stuff out like some of our other favorites, like Alice Cooper or something. They're not afraid to put that stuff out for their fans. And there have been other more comprehensive documentaries on the Who, but I've watched The Kids Are All Right more probably than I watched Filth and the Fury.
So I need to go back too, because if you count the classic album,
That's fine with
I
that.
own the Sex Pistols one, and
And-
I own the Dark Side of the Moon one, and that's the only. I mean, I watched the documentary once, so I don't ever go back, but I own them two.
Yeah, I own.
So I wasn't thinking about.
Yeah,
I was thinking about.
Yeah, I
the
wasn't thinking about that stuff.
I absolutely. I will even go as far as to say Behind the Musics, which I think those are kind of cheap.
Yeah.
But those classic albums are awesome.
Yeah.
What about you, Steve?
I wouldn't say I had a favorite. I mean, I'm kind of like Barry. Once I watch one time, I very rarely go back and watch it over again, even a movie. So, I mean, I've seen everything you guys have said a couple times, but I don't really have a favorite. I mean,
You want to borrow that Sex Pistols one?
no, I don't. Oh, yeah, I'm out of toilet paper.
You actually would like it. And I'll tell you, you would like it from a recording standpoint.
No, I wouldn't.
I think you would.
I wouldn't like
I
it.
think the next subject we ought to hit on this show.
Because why do we like Steve Winston?
How do you not like the Sex Pistols?
It's not good.
It's like Doug and I used to not like the New York Dolls, and I'm just like, how do you not like? I mean,
I can't stand them.
I can understand the reputation and everything else, but just as a band, I mean, they're just such a straightforward, direct rock and roll
I
band.
don't know what happened.
How do you not appreciate a straightforward, direct rock and roll band?
When I heard that music, and even now,
we
when
don't
I hear
have
the
to have
name,
that conversation today.
well, that's what I'm gonna say it though. When I hear the name, it gets me upset. I just don't like it at all. Like nothing about it.
Man, that's just this, you know.
I guess it worked.
I guess. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think there's also, and I'm not trying to analyze anybody. I think what I could say about Steve not liking the New York Dolls, I could probably say about most people, and myself included, that like you make your mind up early on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think a mind can be changed
If you want to.
you know. Well, I think if you depending on whether or not you're right, you'll know.
I mean, I'm not gonna put Vegas money on it, but I'm gonna say that Steve Wenzel probably hasn't listened to any New York Dolls outside of maybe a song or something. I mean,
Well, I wasn't referencing him on that.
but I'm just we were talking about that.
I can't stand them. I just don't like that at all. Any of that stuff. Just
Steve
to
Wenzel
me, it's not even.
Wait. Let me just clarify. Steve Wenzel does not like rock and roll.
No, I do. I just.
Well, I mean, that's
to
all
me,
you need to say.
it goes back to the Kiss conversation of.
You don't have to justify that you
it's
don't like
not-
rock and roll.
it's
I get it.
not-
You just don't like rock and roll.
It's not catchy. I mean, there's a reason why Kiss still draws 30,000 people with the same songs they played 40 years ago, and nobody cares about those bands we're talking about. There's a reason. I mean, those songs are good. A lot of the MC5 songs, a lot of the New York Dolls songs, Sex Pistols. Who knows many of them other than a few people? I mean, honestly, the songs are not that good.
Steve, that's a very
I don't like them.
that's a very unthought out statement.
No, I'm just saying. I didn't grow up. When I go back and dig for music, to me
it's
that
an
doesn't
age
catch.
thing
It doesn't
right
catch.
here.
That's probably an age thing.
It's
It
an age
doesn't
thing.
catch.
See,
me.
I didn't relate to the music of my era at all. All that heavy metal bullshit that you think is cool.
Yeah.
No offense.
Well,
that was the music that drove me away from all that.
But there's the flip flop.
That's how I got driven into discovering the stuff that I like.
Well,
is because I was like, I was just
there's no account for taste.
There's not.
I have an argument against that.
There's no account for taste.
But we're gonna get too much into another thing. We
Yeah,
need to
this
save
is
this for
another
another.
show.
We need to save this for another.
But
show.
I do, and because we are about to wrap it up. But I will say that because hey, I gotta, my voice got to be heard too on this. As far as mine, and a good segue from what we were just talking about. If I had to pick one documentary that like I think is almost perfect, it's that Arthur Kane documentary of the New York Dolls. You talk about a piano moment. You don't even have to like the New York Dolls. Dude has done nothing for 30 years except be bitter and be alcoholic because he didn't ever go and made money after the Dolls broke up. For 30 years, he hated everybody involved in it, hated himself. They finally say, let's all get back together for a concert. So he comes together. They all come together. They all hug. They're all buddies. They go and they fucking destroy it for Morrissey's Meltdown in England.
Get all the prestige, all the notoriety.
He's back. It's happening.
It's happening. They're gonna get back together.
3 weeks later, the dude dies.
He dies.
Three
But see,
3 weeks later, the guy fucking dies.
that is like the opposite of the formula. That whole documentary
That's a
was a
poignant
piano
ending,
moment,
yeah.
and then it had yay at the end, and then it went back down to.
No, you know what? As a fan of that band and him, to me it was
He went out on top.
It came out on top. Like that's all he wanted, and he didn't realize he was racing with time. Like,
Yeah.
had that happened, had that show been booked a month later, he would not have been able to get back on stage one last time. That's the way I see that.
Yeah.
But so, and I don't mean to keep going, but so what is the reason those bands haven't sustained success then? I mean, I'm not talking about death. I'm just talking about in general. If they're so
Commercial
great,
success?
if they're so great and wonderful, why have they not sustained?
But the thing
Sex
is they
Pistols
have. You gotta understand that's my
We
point.
didn't grow up on that stuff, man.
We didn't grow up on
You
that.
didn't grow up on it, but this is the point. It's like I tell people, I use the Ramones. I'm like, the Ramones, when they first came out, they were considered uncommercial at best and anti-commercial at worst, right? I mean, and the industry was against them, right? They were being definitely fought against by their own industry. Now, fast forward 30, 40 years later, this anti or uncommercial band are in commercials. And they don't do that by accident. You know, there ain't a guy sitting in a room going, we'll just use this Ramones song because I like it.
I agree with that.
You know?
But I missed the Ramones thing too. But when I go back and listen to them, the music's good.
Because you could use that argument that you're having. Who had the hit with Tutti Frutti back in the 50s?
Yeah.
Who had the hit with it?
I know what you're saying.
Who had the hit
Pat
with
Boone.
it?
Yeah,
Pat
I know
Boone.
what you're saying.
How many people have ever heard the Pat Boone version of Tutti Frutti?
I've heard it, but that don't mean anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
The
get
quality is what sustains. It doesn't matter how commercially successful it was.
Because
that's
if-
completely irrelevant at the end of the day.
If the
because-
importance of every group was judged on their success as to what they sold, then we would only be sitting here talking about New Kids on the Block.
But I'm not
and,
even saying that. I'm just saying more.
Well, you
I
are,
missed the Ramones thing. I totally did. But when I go back and listen to it, the songs are incredible.
Well, that's what we're saying about.
But
the
man,
albums. There's-
see, me knowing what you like, knowing that you and I are Hall & Oates pals till the end.
The only two I know of.
Yeah.
I know it surprises you.
I don't understand why you don't like the Sex
Yeah,
Pistols.
Barry don't either.
I don't understand it because, and I don't know if you just weren't given the proper presentation or what, but.
I understand why you don't like New York Dolls.
Well, you don't like them either.
I mean, I could understand, but I cannot understand the Sex Pistols.
Do you like New York Dolls?
No, I don't listen to that.
I just wondered. Never asked you. Maybe it just never happened.
But
Like,
I mean,
at the right time.
In your defense, you don't like the Stones either.
I don't dislike them.
But I mean,
I'm not a super fan.
To me,
I'd rather
They're
hear
not
the
the Beatles.
I would rather hear the Beatles.
See, I've known you for 30 years, and you say you'd rather hear the Beatles. You used to hate the Beatles.
I flipped on that. I did flip on that.
It's because I tried to hide. I tried to fight against the Beatles too, and eventually you just got to concede. You do. You're like, okay, yes, they're good.
I flipped on the Beatles.
You know,
I don't
it's like
think
that
I-
shamefully. I know.
I don't think I ever went through a period where I hated them. I never hated them.
I never hated them, but you know, it's like some of the stuff becomes such a perennial thing that you just sort of knee-jerk react against it, and that's sort of what we're saying is his reaction against the Sex Pistols. But that's my point: is the quality is there, and eventually, I think it'll seep through if you just get the right avenue to bring it in. You know,
You used to say the same stuff about the Ramones, and I would have never thought
Yeah.
one day you'd be like,
Well, I love
"Goddamn."
their Ramones, yeah.
Yeah.
But I came along with and one of my greatest regrets is not seeing them with y'all. One of my greatest regrets. I mean, I have 2 or 3 regrets of things I should have went and saw, and that's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's just it pisses me off to this day.
that
But you know, I was
that would
into.
a good show for them.
But think about it, man. I mean, you got time and place now. Time and place. Me and Jeff were into Jackal. I mean, time and place. We had no clue what that crap was. So I mean, it's just a difference of age on this little bit of stuff because I had no.
I guess it's
dude,
also-
I bought 5150 and threw it in trash because I thought it was satanic. Okay, I mean, same with Rain and Blood. Same with Rain and Blood. We bought Rain and Blood. We threw it out the window, me and Jeff, because we thought it was satanic, which it was.
But you know,
But I mean, it's time and place.
You know what eventually really flipped me on the Sex Pistols? Megadeth.
Now this is getting weird,
Megadeth did that cover of Anarchy in the UK.
right?
And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And then and just by chance, my little stepbrother, he was getting into the skate thing, and he had a cassette that someone had copied shit on, you know, and the Sex Pistols were on it. So I was like, I want to hear that song. And then once you've heard that, you start listening to the rest of the record, you know.
Yeah.
And once we heard the original, we were fuck that Megadeth shit. That shit's weak, man.
Johnny Come Lately Sex Pistols fans. I got to live through my mom seeing the record on my bed, and she cried.
Now see, that's there you go. That's the There's the difference.
No? Hey, I had similar experiences. I bought a Misfits tape, Mom flipped
But see,
out.
here's the deal, and maybe
Saw
this
the title Angel Fuck, and her head exploded.
maybe this will explain it, Russ. Like when I grew up, my mom bought me Diary of a Madman. She bought me anything I wanted on vinyl and never said a word about it.
No.
So I didn't have that.
How could you have Diary of Madman and think 5150
No. I'm just saying. No, I'm just talking about when I bought a tape in the record store. She bought me all these records. I don't know if I even listened to them because I was just wanting it because of the cover.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I didn't have the parents that were, oh, you got to throw this in the trash. They didn't care, so I didn't have nothing to rebel against.
Mine never cared about anything as far as that goes. That my mom thought Alice Cooper had a beautiful voice as long as she didn't have to look at him. Now, Dad gave me some shit about Alice Cooper
Because of the hair.
because of everything. And but the only thing my mom was ever upset about was the Sex Pistols, and that is because one of her friends who worked in the Music Mart in Albemarle, she said, yeah, he's wanting that new Kiss record. Well, we don't got it yet. She goes, I don't know what he sees in that old Kiss. She just thought, oh, he's way too into that. And she said, her name was Miss Turner. I don't remember what her first name was, but the last name was definitely Turner. And she said, Ruth, just be thankful he's not into them people, the Sex Pistols. And that's all it took. That's all it took for me. That's all it took for her. And I'm like, we did one of them school field trips where we came to Charlotte or something. And I had a little bit of pocket money because I knew we'd be in the mall. And, man, I saw the Sex Pistols on the end cap.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing was nothing but Never Mind the Bollocks. Pew!
Oh, yeah.
And, man, that record stayed on my turntable, I swear to you, for a month. It didn't come off. Only time it come off was to flip the side. And, man, one day, and I kept it from her because I knew how she felt about it. And they were all in the news then. They vomit on their audience, oh, they're spitting all over people. My mom was just like, that is the most disgusting thing I ever heard in my life. And one day she walked in, I forgot to slip it off the damn bed before she goes, I can't believe you support these people.
That was great.
Hey, that's part of what scared me away from punk rock when I was like 10 or whatever. Was all those stories and stuff. That was like, that spun my little brain sideways. I was like, I can't handle that. That's just,
I was lucky.
So I dismissed punk rock for a long time, right out of hand, just like that, because of and that's the industry working against them.
Yeah.
Part of me wants to say that I had a really cool mom because she never like monitored that stuff. She didn't care. I think she thought I could make my own choices. But part of it, like Steve said, we grew up in Mount Pleasant. There wasn't a punk rock contingent in Mount Pleasant. Heavy metal was Van Halen.
Which goes back to my point.
And when Metallica came along, I think by the time that a kid is 15 and 16 years old, a parent's not going to be able to do anything as far as monitoring what their kid listens to.
Right.
But like in my earlier years, I was completely at the mercy of what was on the radio and on MTV. That's like, for me, heavy metal was Come On, Feel the Noise, and You Got Another Thing Coming, which the Priest is fine. I never liked the Quiet Riot.
But do you like the Slade?
The Slade. I like the Slade a lot more than I did 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yes, I turned around on Slade. I will say I always liked Slade a little bit. Another episode. When I bought all those records with Steve, me and Steve went and bought these records I went and sold. It had Slade with the thumb. Mm-hmm. And I probably listened to it like 4 times in a row. Just kept turning it over and over. I was like, because I always used to say I liked Sweet more than Slade. Everybody pairs those bands up. Like now it's like, no, I like Slade.
They're very different.
I like Slade more than Sweet, and a pretty lethal band. I ain't saying I like everything, but.
Did you keep that record? Did you sell it?
Oh, I got it. It's on. That and the Rose Tattoo had all this milk toast vanilla rock that no one cared about, but it was the first Rose Tattoo. And that Slade record, I was like, man, I can't believe it.
Someone from around here had the first Roast.
That guy had great stuff.
He had tons of shit. He sold me like 600 records for $600, and it was a bunch of stuff, just rock stuff.
I mean, I bought all the Rose Tattoo records in record stores in Charlotte and Albemarle when they came out, but there was always one, and they never seemed to like restock them or anything. You never heard nobody talk about them.
This guy had that one, and I was surprised to see it because most of his stuff was just radio rock. I mean, he had a lot of lesser known stuff, not lesser known, like Humble Pie. He had a bunch of that stuff. He had a bunch of 70s glam.
Hey, can I tell you a funny roast tattoo story before we sign off?
Wrap it up. Yeah.
I was living in Charlotte, and I came home, just sometime on the weekends, just to do laundry and all that kind of stuff. Well, my brother was still living at home, and he had got me Scarred for Life for Christmas. Well, I was stopping by home. He told me. See, Greg and I always told each other what we got each other for Christmas. We didn't like the whole element of surprise thing. And I was going to see Aerosmith because Rose Tattoo was opening for him at the Greensboro Coliseum. But I didn't have the new record yet. So I stopped by home. Knew Greg had got me the record. Popped it open. Took it in there. Played Scarred for Life so I'd be familiar with all the songs, man. Put it back in the wrap. Put it back under the damn tree. And then I go on to the show, and now I know when they play Scarred for Life and Branded and all that. I know them. And I always thought that was a pretty funny story,
Yeah. Well, when you're a kid, I think you get you get such good skills at sneaking into presents.
But see, the thing is, I went to see Rose Tattoo. At this point, I didn't care about Aerosmith. Aerosmith's one of my favorite bands.
What tour was that?
Rockin' a Hard Place.
Yeah.
And they were terrible. They were awful. I mean, I still would have loved to.
You're talking about late 70s.
Yeah.
Aerosmith.
It was terrible.
I mean, they were pretty overcome with drugs at that point.
Right?
This is probably early 80s, right? 81.
This isn't with the other guys, right? This is
There was no Joe Perry.
Oh, so Joe Perry's not in the band. Yeah, I wouldn't even want to see that.
There was no Joe Perry, no
Brad Whitford.
Brad Whitford. It was the two other guys.
Charlie Crespo and
Wow.
I can remember his name. I can't. Yeah, had good songs.
Was there a lot of people that was it packed?
Yeah, it was packed. But man, they came out. They opened with "Back in the Saddle." It's one of my favorite songs. They were well into it before I realized what the hell it was.
Wow.
I mean, they were bad. They were very bad.
Dang.
Well, that sounds like a good ending spot.
All right.
A shitty Aerosmith tour. Well, listen, if you have stuck around for this, then God bless you, because
thank you very much.
We got real far off task. But listen, hit us up on our Facebook. Let us know what you think. We have an email address. Write us thepossumpitpodcast@gmail.com. Again, thepossumpitpodcast@gmail.com. Look for us on Facebook. We are on iTunes and SoundCloud and YouTube. Look on our Facebook page. I'm going to link all that stuff up. And when you get on any of those avenues to check us out, subscribe, review, download, do all that stuff. It might not seem like a lot, but we need to hear from you guys. Make sure we're, I was happy with that number. I've done see almost 300 people have viewed it on Facebook. On YouTube, we have over 100 people who have subscribed on Facebook. But we want to hear from you, so get in touch with us. Look for us in about 2 more weeks. And we love you. Thanks. See you next time.